Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today for another edition of the AJ and Recon Show, the Peak Fiction Podcast, the Aerith Appreciation Show. We are here today to celebrate not One Piece, even though that is what I do every single day, every single hour, every single minute. Today we're going to be celebrating another of the big three. The first that I experienced of the big three. And we're going to get all of AJ's thoughts on Naruto later on in this discussion. But before we get into that, there's a lot of greatness that I've got to ask my brother. Starting off with, how are you doing today, my good friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again. I've really been looking forward to it. I knew that we were going to do a bunch, or at least a couple more of these, but the more time went on and the more things we experienced and I experienced and that we would talk about, I'm like, I think we probably got to separate One Piece from this stuff, because otherwise we'd be talking 8 hours straight. But no, I'm really glad to be here and talk about what I don't know, just one of the most some of the most incredible fictional journeys I've been on, including the main one for today, which is Naruto.
Yes. Yeah, man. I'm so excited for that. I remember whenever we were doing our last one, you were right before the insanity started in the second half of the story. With, if I'm not mistaken, you were around like the 300s to the 400s. I think you were in the 300s last time that we got together.
Yeah.
God, how long ago was that?
Yeah, it was a little bit.
Yeah. So that'll be really cool. But of course, before we get into that, knowing you and I, we've got to talk about video games. As a matter of fact, right before we started recording, for anybody who's listening to this, we of course, first thing we talked about was FF7 off air, and I just have to reiterate how excited both of us are for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. It is undoubtedly the thing that I'm just, it's almost here. I can almost taste it, and like I have a demo that I can play, and it's not enough. It's like it's as if I was one of those kids back in 1997 who had the bombing run mission demo, Pizza Hut demo disc, and they just played that over and over again, waiting for the game to come out. That's me right now. It's like I already have the remake. I have Intergrade. I have the original game. I have both Crisis Cores. But by the Flagnards, I can't get enough of this demo in this game. And so it's going to be an experience that I can't wait for. It's one of the main reasons why I wanted to have this discussion before Rebirth came out, to have some of our excitement and maybe even some predictions. AJ, man, I know you're looking forward to this as much as I am. Any thoughts on the exciting week and a half away journey that awaits us here?
Oh man, yeah, I have thoughts and more. Like I could go on forever about this franchise, this series. More than anything is that I'm just remake was very important for me personally, because I when I first played 7 OG, I really enjoyed it. But for some reason, I'm not sure why it was. It could have been a bunch of reasons. I never connected with it as much as like people like you did immediately, like people who adored it, like one of their absolute peak fiction stories. I really liked it, and it was a favorite, but it wasn't like a top favorite story. Like it didn't have absolute cream of the crop potential for me. I just thought it was really good. And then remake came around, and I was going, maybe I'll be able to connect with the story a bit more. Maybe that would be cool. And it came around, and I was able to. Like, with the voice acting and the improved localization and the way that Midgar comes to life, and how all these wonderful moments are, the soul of the story is encapsulated in all these wonderful moments, and the music, like, it made me fall in love with Final Fantasy VII as a story. And I have so much, like, I'm very grateful for that. And so I'm just looking forward to more of that. I can't wait to see a bunch of new characters we're going to see, a bunch of new locations brought to life in the most magnificent way. and of course them putting their own spin on it, like they did with remake, in a way that understandably it's not unanimously accepted or
Mm-hmm.
universally thought of as great, but I could not be more excited for the direction they're going
Same.
with it, and I'm just like. I'm ready to go on the ride. I'm ready to do whatever they want to do. They established that it's in the right hands with remake, so I
Yes.
can't wait to see what they've got with Rebirth. I mentioned this before we started recording, but it's most of what I think about with less than 2 weeks away. It's most of what I think about during the day.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, dude. And I love what you brought up with how it's not accepted universally from the community, because I think that's one of the things that I'm most surprised about with the release of Rebirth is it feels like everyone's on board again. Like right
True,
before
yeah.
remake came out. It truly feels like, thanks to the creators sticking to their vision, sticking to their core. They understood at the end of the first part of this remake project that yes, there would be some fans that would be skeptical, but with Rebirth's trailers, with we can tell that they didn't include all the new, like I call it anime original, the new FF7
Yeah.
remake original stuff. Just to have it there, like they clearly have a vision. They have something that they want to tell to the new individuals getting into FF7 through the remake, and to longtime fans who are looking to re-experience all of this stuff. They're hitting all of the right notes, and just based on what we've seen from the trailers, it really does look like it's going to be a special experience. I've talked about this so many times, but Shinra HQ and the Gold Saucer are my two most like played sections in any video game ever. Shinra
Oh.
HQ because I didn't have a memory card, so I got that far, then had to restart. It was one of those
Oh.
situations. And then when the memory card came in, Gold Saucer to this day, no matter if it was on the PS1 or if I play it on any of the other editions I have of FF7 on, those mini games all have such a special place in my heart. That entire like the music, it's just everybody had those arguments whenever we were younger, especially at that time. What's better, Ocarina of Time or FF7? And I remember everyone would talk about Ocarina of Time having this, and that. And I'd be like, oh, but I have like 50 games in Final Fantasy VII. What
It's
do you have to say
true.
about that?
It's
We
true.
we we have snowboarding over here. So it's Gold Saucer means a lot to me, and the chocobo races and all the silliness and wackiness that comes with it. It's and so I really can't wait for it. Remake similar to what you said earlier, even though I already, of course, love the story. Remake elevated it to a place I can't, like. I'll never forget the first time I went through chapters 8 and 9.
Oh yeah.
That to me, bro, like when I heard that new rendition of Flowers Blooming in the Church, and you're just climbing the rooftops, I was like, dude, this exists. It's better than I could have ever imagined. Like it get teary eyed just thinking about it, and I can't wait for those kind of moments in Rebirth where they elevate these things that I already hold in such high regard, and they take them to the next level, and take these characters that I love so much to the next level. Before we move on to something else, I have to ask: have you read the novel Traces of Two Pasts?
The Tifa and Aerith one.
Yeah.
I have it. I haven't finished it, but I've
Okay.
gotten like roughly halfway or so. I want to say I want to finish it before it comes out, but
For sure.
I don't know how likely that is. But I've read
Right.
roughly half of it or so.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. The reason why I brought it up is because whenever I was doing my recent experiencing it once again with the context of what takes place there, it hits different. Both from Tifa and Aerith's perspectives. So for anybody who's listening to this, that would like even more connection to these characters, and even deeper connection, Traces of Two Pasts definitely can provide that, especially knowing how the remake project calls back on so many different things. I wouldn't be surprised if they continue to have callbacks,
Oh yeah.
even to stuff like that. knowing that Nojima's writing both projects. So that's a high recommendation for me. But yeah, FF7 Rebirth, man, we're so close, and hopefully next time we'll get together to do this. The two of us can come on here and just splurge about that with no holds barred. No, we're not holding back spoilers. We can talk about timelines and craziness and future theories. Like, it's gonna be exciting.
I can't wait. I think you were talking about chapters, like chapters 8 and 9. Absolutely, those are two of the biggest highlights of the game for me. Along there with them for me is chapter 4, which is completely new. The Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge, side detour, whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm just hoping for more of that sort of thing. Just enhance new stuff that just enriches the plot and the story and the characters, but is so loyal to the soul of it. Just tons more of that I'm hoping for, and I'm sure they'll do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like we talked about this before, about even though it's so misplaced, but that's why I love chapter 11. In the train graveyard, like it's one of those things where it's unfortunate it comes right before one of the most emotional parts of the game, one of the best parts of the game in chapter 12.
Yes,
because chapter 11 has so many great character dynamics and interactions, and just a powerful message throughout. It's just misplaced.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where I feel the same way about that chapter as I do chapter 4, where I just adore them, and I love them more on replays where the structure of the game is already like in my mind. I really love that section of the story. But yeah, going on to something else that I could not wait to come on here and talk to you about, man. You went through 3 of my favorite games of all time. All 3 of them. One of these days, Rogers Base and I are going to do a top 100 video games of all time. We've been setting that up for a couple of months, and all 3 of those that I'm about to mention are without question in that list. Pretty high up as well. Metal Gear Solid 1, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3, man. I just have to ask, how was it not only playing those games finally? I'm sure you must have been hearing about Hideo Kojima and this franchise that he's created that so many people love. But how did it feel experiencing those games for the first time on stream? I feel like that must have been such a unique experience that I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It was honestly magical. I guess I spent roughly 2 months going through them on stream, and I haven't been streaming super long, but it is without doubt one of the most magical experiences I've had. I was already kind of a Kojima fan, as much as I could have been before checking them out, because I love PT. Like,
yes,
PT is one of the most creative, brilliant works of art just in general. Agreed. Despite it being 2-3 hours tops.
It was like 2 hours.
Yeah. It's the scariest piece of media for me. It just captures my imagination and immerses you, and so I adore it. I'm one of the biggest fans of it in the world. So I was a fan already, but I'm just like, surely Metal Gear Solid is totally different from that, and it is. But I was really just, because of what you said and what other people have said and its reputation, it was one of those series that I just had to get into eventually, and the stars aligned with the Master Collection Volume 1 coming out, making it easy to stream it. And yeah, I didn't know what to expect going into it, but it was everything I could have asked for and more. Like, what I love about it is every game has, well, I was going to say a message, but multiple messages. Like, they have these monolithic messages and then lots of other messages tied to them and great characters to accentuate them. But Kojima always has a vision with these, and is not at all scared to get across whatever message it is in the most insane way, whether it be through gameplay elements, whether it be through giving us half-hour cutscene,
Mm-hmm.
like whatever he thinks is most effective, and most of the time it is. And the games, I think, have this beautiful soul to them, this beautiful sort of spirit this beating heart that I think is sort of Kojima's like lifeblood and his art and his work, that just feels consistent along all three of them. But what I love is that they feel consistent. You play them and like you're like, this is the same game series, but they are so different. 3 and 2 are like polar opposites in approach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think one's kind of a bridge between them in a way,
Mm-hmm.
stylistically. But
Right.
you with 2 you have this insanely ahead of its time meta
Mm-hmm.
cautionary tale about
Yes.
technology and AI, and it does so. 2 is so genius the way it's structured. It is one of the
Truly.
smartest pieces of media, if not the smartest I've ever seen. It is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas 3 is, not to say that 2 doesn't have this, because it absolutely does, but 3 is much more pathos driven,
Mm-hmm.
much more like character focused and
Yes.
emotional to me. Um,
Yep.
Not to say that 3 isn't ingenious as well in its own ways and 2 isn't
Mm-hmm.
emotional, because both are, but like that's their core
Right.
focus.
100%.
And comparing and contrasting my experience with both, sharing my thoughts with chat, and like just being like, I can't believe how dynamic the writing is and the presentation is from Kojima to do this from game to game, and just I not compromise on quality. In fact, just like get better and better. I don't. It was.
Mm-hmm.
It's. I'm stunned that they exist, and I am I am frothing at the mouth for Metal Gear Solid 4,
Yes.
because I don't have Master Collection Volume 2, and
Mm-hmm.
4 is notoriously difficult to get your hands on and
Yeah, it is.
stream. Like it's so hard to stream it. So I'm just waiting for that, and I was forced away from it, and like I am so impatient for it, but I guess I'll be rewarded eventually. But yeah, sorry, TLDR. My experience was amazing. Sharing my thoughts with Chad and seeing people how the games have affected others' childhoods throughout their lives, and
Mm-hmm.
the memories they have with them, and seeing people share their thoughts and their experiences with me, and seeing me go through for the first time. Like it was just so special. It was like why those streams are an encapsulation of why I love stories and why I love like sharing
Right.
my experiences with them as well. Like it was just amazing.
Oh man, dude, that's everything I could have ever hoped for. Whenever you were talking about getting into it, matter of fact, last time that we did a discussion, you were like, it was right after the PlayStation State of Play where they announced the 3 remake
Right.
and the Master Collection. So it's just so cool to be here now, and you having experienced all 3 games. I have to tell you in regards to at least 3 and 4. So my journey with Metal Gear started in the old channel whenever I was recommended the series by some of my Gintama viewers who were telling me that if I really like Gintama, I think you would really appreciate Metal Gear Solid by a lot of close friends of mine in the Gintama community. And so I gave it a shot and pretty much shared my entire journey on the channel. And that's why I asked about the streaming thing, because I wasn't able to stream it, but I recorded my reaction to the end of Metal Gear Solid 3 and Metal Gear Solid 4. And it's unfortunate that those videos are now gone because I've come over to the new channel once the old one got Buster called. But the Metal Gear Solid 4 one in particular is one that will always be very memorable for me. So I'm looking forward to experiencing that once again with you, because MGS4 really is an extremely special game, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. But on the ones that you've experienced so far, I mean, we've talked about it before, but man, 3 and 2 for me, because I really love MGS1. I think it's such a magnificent game, especially for its time. I mean, you think about that, the fact that same thing with Final Fantasy 7. Those 2 games were released in 97 and 98. Like, you think about the all-time classics, MGS, Ocarina of Time, Half-Life, Final Fantasy 7. They all released pretty much like back to back to back to back. It was it was
Right.
an incredible time for video games, but MGS bringing voice acting to the forefront there, and the way that it really felt like you were playing a movie is on the surface level what made MGS so famous. But when you dig deeper, MGS really had a deeper thing that it was trying to say, and And Kojima continues to do that with each individual game, having something different to say. I'm so glad that you talked about MGS2, because MGS2 for me was the one that was my least favorite my first go around, and has now become pretty much tied as my favorite in the franchise, because the replay of that game, I don't know what it was that where I was mentally, or what space I was in, but going through that experience was one of my favorite video game experiences of all time. It's one of the most special video games ever created, especially with the messages, like you said, it being so far ahead of its time, but Kojima tying that to a character who's trying so hard, or they're trying to make Raiden into something that he's not, and he's trying his hardest as well to be everything that's not himself, and for him to receive that message towards the end of the game, whenever you receive your dog tags, like, no, you are you. Like, you have to build your own legacy. It's there's so many different things that are at the core of what makes that game so special. But one of my favorite things is that message of identity, and individuals finding themselves. And I think that Kojima did a fantastic job showcasing that through Raiden and Snake's relationship in that game. And when it comes to Snake Eater, I feel like it has everything that you could ever ask for in a video game in one. It's one of those pieces of media where on the surface you can enjoy it as just someone who's looking forward to a good time, and the more you pick it apart, the more you realize just how much there is to offer. I'm glad that I have you here, because there's a moment in MGS3 that forever changed my perspective on just the world as a whole, and it's that moment where the boss is talking about the first time she went into space, and she's looking at the planet Earth from outside, and she realized how small everything is. That really impacted me, because I'd never really thought about it in that way, and it's one of those moments whenever I think back to some of my favorite fictional experiences that have shaped me. It's one of those that I think back to whenever there's something going on, wherever the case may be, where I'm like, man, like the boss said, or just peeling it back and looking at everything on a grander scale, exactly what we're doing here on the planet. It was such an eye-opening sequence, and those are the things that Kojima is best at. Whenever he reaches down into the very core of the game's soul and gives you that Snake speech from MGS1, or he gives you that Raiden moment at the end of MGS2, or he gives you that boss and even big boss moment in MGS3, where it really reaches into things that players can carry with them for the rest of their lives, and that's just, those are the reasons why those games are so special to me. It's a combination of everything that you just said, and I'm so glad you were able to share that with your community. I being in those streams for as much as I was able to, your community was awesome, man. I have to say, for everybody from AJ streams and the Metal Gear Solid streams, you guys are incredible. Like, y'all did your thing. They were very entertaining streams.
They did. They're definitely a bunch of them are definitely listening to this right now. So
awesome.
Thank you for making it so special. And thank you for coming out to them as well, because you were a part of that. Just one last thing about what you said. I love that scene as well. And in particular, I love what you say about how the games just give you these things that these lessons or these ideas that can be so formative and so important to you. Depending on the person you are, depending on the person, you take away different things. But they're so full of these ideas and themes and moments that can stick with you. And I love, I've had, I think throughout all three games, I've had at the very least a handful, a bunch. But I think my favorite, I don't even know which my favorite game is between 2 and 3. It's so tough. But my favorite, I think, idea to take from it is from 2, where Raiden talks about how, I'm okay to just spoil, right?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
okay, just checking.
Mm-hmm.
How like, what do I do with myself now? Everything I
Right.
did, it wasn't real. It wasn't real.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to live and move on from this? And Snake tells him, who I'm paraphrasing obviously, but who can really define what real is? If you experience something and you took something
Yeah.
from it that's important, just that is real, and you pass that on,
Yes.
and that's how important memetics, excuse me, and ideas are passed on, and that's how you important legacies are shaped in the world. And I love stories about stories. I love
Me
stories
too.
that just tout the importance of stories. It's why I love Final Fantasy in general, a bunch of
Human
different
Echo.
Umineko, a
Yep.
bunch of different
Yep.
anime, um,
Mm-hmm.
and manga, and that spoke to me on that loving stories level,
Absolutely.
because someone who doesn't really get narrative can just go like, it's not real, live in the real worlds or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
no, the ideas and values that these artists pour out on the page or the game or the screen or whatever, um, can change lives depending on how you interpret it or take it in. And I just think it was executed in such a beautiful way in two, that really just had my jaw on the ground. It was just incredible. So it's super special, and yeah, like I said, I can't wait to do four and on and see what else this series has for me.
Yeah, man. I'm so excited for those. There's still so much greatness for you to experience, and honestly, for any fan of Kojima, he's cooking. He
Oh
just
yeah.
continues, even without Konami, he's still cooking at the highest level. It's incredible what he's doing over there. But moving on from the greatness of MGS, you're currently playing through the legendary Yakuza 6: The Song of Peak. The last time that we spoke, I believe you were about to start 3. So 3, 4, and 5, and a bit of 6. If you want to talk a little bit about that as well. Talk to me about how that experience was, and just before you go, I just have to say, in regards to 3 and 5 in particular, the orphanage stuff in 3, and the just everything about 5, literally everything about 5 is some of my favorite stuff in that franchise. It's Yakuza 5, dude, the Haruka route, the stuff that the game does with Kiryu, what it does with the concept and ideas of dreams, and how it's interweaved between all 5 of the routes. It's so brilliant. But I want to hear your thoughts on the games.
Yeah, so unfortunately, because of scheduling stuff, I had to do most of 3 off stream. But
Mm-hmm.
uh I really enjoyed especially the first few hours of the game of 3,
Yeah,
just
me
seeing
too.
the change in pace and seeing Kiryu. There's such a change in the voice direction as well. His voice is so soft.
Mm-hmm.
Kuroda really just, I don't know what he did, but he just feels so free, Kiryu,
Right.
which is obviously why it's sad to see him have to be dragged back consistently. Anyway, he's a complex character. I could go on all day about that. But
Yeah.
no, I really enjoyed that in 3. It's probably like, if we're ranking the games, 3 and 4 are probably my bottom 2, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Still really enjoy them, but something's got to be at the bottom in a series
That's right.
as peak as Yakuza.
That's
So
right.
like, they're not my favorite. 3 isn't my favorite game ever, but like, that I took away that from it. I really love that. Mine's, I think, is a great character.
Agreed.
He's really good, and the way it all sort of comes together with his dynamic with Kiryu, similar
Mm-hmm.
backgrounds, but like the way that Kiryu is able to approach life in a completely contrasting way from him, and how Mine's just in shock at how he's able to do that. Daigo's role in it, and then Rikia as well. Just
Mm-hmm.
incredible peaks in 3. Uh,
Definitely.
I really, really enjoy 4. I don't have much, like, again, it's probably bottom 2 in the series, but I don't have much
Mm-hmm.
bad or criticism to say about it. I
Yeah.
really enjoy it. It brought
Akiyama's in the
I was
game,
gonna
dude.
say that. I was gonna say it brought me 2 of my favorite characters, Sajima and Akiyama, and
Yes.
it has some great directing, like some great visuals,
Definitely.
that I think they took further in 5 and 0 and on. But Yeah, 4 is great. Uh, just the different perspectives and seeing these new personalities that are so effortlessly weaved into the story. Because there's lots of characters and personalities, and there's a way the series could become too busy or bloated, but they're able to do it in a way that they're also different and endearing and engaging in one way or another. So yeah, I really liked 4. And then 5, honestly, man, that was unbelievable. I just, man, it was so much stuff for Kiryu that I was waiting for
Yes.
throughout the entire series up until that point, and I'm so glad it got to that point. His sort of dynamic with having to leave the orphanage and his attitude towards the Yakuza, his Yakuza side, and the "I've never been a saint" moment where he just sort of, you can't avoid that. You can't avoid parts of yourself. And fate, of course, he wants to move on past that in a bunch of different ways, but you cannot just ignore that. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to. And him, in the moments where he digs into that Yakuza side of himself, it's very raw and badass and gratifying.
Yes.
Sad at the same time in some ways.
Yeah.
Just peak all around. 5 was amazing for Kiryu. Love the and also I think what's notable is that the game can be very slow pace wise.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know some people say slow as a negative. I don't. It's just a descriptor. It's just a descriptor of the pacing. But it's very gradual and slow, and I really like how it takes lots of time to set things up and let the characters breathe. And it's a sign of confidence too, because they knew they were cooking with this, and they're like, okay, like they had no reason to rush to try to get players engaged because they knew they had some magic. But yeah, Kiryu, amazing stuff. Love the Saejima stuff, and then the just to touch on Saejima, the scene with him and Majima, the tripe scene.
Ooh,
one of the best in the whole series. Unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So love that. Also Baba's great. I really like Baba. And then, oh my god, part 3. It's all the stuff I didn't know I wanted, but I was so in love with it from minute 1. It is the perfect time for that sort of focus on Haruka, and it's a great new dynamic for the gameplay, but I think part 3 is where it really starts to come together, the theme of dreams, and you see where the story's going, and it made Haruka into one of my favorite characters in the series.
Same.
Like, I really liked her before that. I really liked her, but she hadn't really gotten internalization and focus, But here she does, and it's so great. She's such a strong person, such a strong character, with so much, who's gone through so much, but is so optimistic, and she's very shonen.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then her, by the way, just got to say, Park, one of the best minor characters in the whole series for me. And then her with Akiyama and Shinada, man. Oh my god.
Oh man, my boy Shinada.
Oh my god.
Yes,
I couldn't believe how I was just like, cool, we're getting a bit of a detour, like kind of like something apart from the main plot. I'm down for that. It not only integrated with the themes of the whole game, but it gave me not only one of my favorite Yakuza characters, but one of my favorite video game characters in general. I cannot believe how much love I have for this man, and how they achieved such a beautiful arc in such limited time,
Seriously.
And the payoff is just unbelievable. I don't know if he's going to be in the series again. I have no idea. But if he isn't, I can really have no complaints because his arc is so comprehensive and fulfilling. And then the final act, how it all comes together for every character, and then the evil cliffhanger into 6.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. And so, and I've been playing a great deal of 6. I'm pretty far in by now. Very different type of game from 5, which I think was necessary.
Yes.
They had to change up the approach. But just the more I play, the more impressed I am with all it does for Kiryu. It's like this is the
For sure.
Kiryu game. 6 is the
Yes.
Kiryu game, and love the character additions in Somea and
Yes.
Jungi. They're
Yes.
both amazing.
Amazing
The
characters.
way that the story tackles the idea of passing on the torch between generations and the
Right.
shadow of a legacy like Kiryu, and how they foil him. And it's very intimate. It's a very personal story, very tight,
Yes.
very narrow focus. But I love it. The more I play, the more I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is my long spiel. Sorry for being long-winded.
No, I love it.
But
Oh,
but
I love it.
but I've enjoyed the games immensely, more and more as it goes on. Like, I remember you telling me that like from 5 onwards is your favorite parts of the series.
Yes, for sure.
And I'm gonna end up agreeing because my top 3 right now are Yakuza 0, 5, and I'm sure 6 will be in the top 3 once I'm done.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that
Respect.
continues with the rest of the series. I'm loving
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And whenever I say from 5 onwards, it's release order. So 0 came after
Oh,
5.
right.
Just yeah.
Yeah. So
So
so we're exactly the same in that way then.
Right. I'm so glad that you brought up Shinada. It's such a fantastic. I actually forgot to. I did a Yakuza tier list the other day, and I forgot to bring him up as to why I love that game so much. Yeah, he's such a great character there. In regards to 6, and you're talking about like the narrow focus. That's one of the main reasons why I really love the Song of Life. It's such a it's one of those extremely personal experiences, and for me it's one of my favorites just because it was the one that got me into the franchise. And what I mean by that is the way that I discovered the story and the series as a whole was because I'm a massive wrestling fan, and at the time New Japan Pro Wrestling was popping off, so I saw their world champion appearing in this brand new game for the thing, and I was like, what in the world's going on here? And I was like, oh snap, they got some of the New Japan Pro wrestlers inside of coming into this into the franchise now. And I was like, oh snap, that's actually really, really cool. So I saw that magazine cover for that, and I was like, oh, let's go. I really want to check out this franchise. And then I found out that it was actually the 6th installment. So I was like, all right, I got to go back and play them all through to this point. But it's so cool whenever any franchise brings in people from the outside in order to promote it and stuff of that nature. But I just felt like that fit the series so well once I got into it. That I was like, oh, this is like a match made in heaven for the wrestling world and the world of video games to come together. But in regards to what you were talking about with 5 and the evil cliffhanger, dude, I think about that all the time. How lucky you and I are,
Yeah.
Like, people had to wait from, I believe that game came out in 2011 or 2012, all the way until I think in Japan it was 2016, and in America it came out in 2018 to find out what happens. Can you imagine?
That's
insane.
That's unbelievable. I was debating like. I was like, okay, is the next stream game going to be Yakuza 6? Do I want to try a different series in between? And then I saw that scene. I said, okay, there's no chance I'm not doing 6. Like, there's no way. So, man, for anyone who had to wait 5-6 years,
Yeah, man.
I'm so sorry, and you are stronger than I could ever be.
Yeah, same. Like, I think about the end of that game all the time because the decision that both of them come to with Haruka and Kiryu at the end of Yakuza 5, in particular on the concept of dreams and choosing, your family or your dreams, and it's just what Haruka, the decisions that have to be made there, it just hits so hard that even if the cliffhanger wouldn't have been evil, I would have been like, I just want to follow these characters forever.
Yeah.
But then they hit us with the devious cliffhanger after that. I was like, nah, man, this is too much. That's a special game right there, man. Shout out to Yakuza. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the games. And just for the viewers who are watching this, do you plan on going straight into the next game after this, or are you gonna start another streaming game after that? What are your plans?
It's funny because lately I've been having an existential crisis because I don't know what to do. I it's basically up in the air. I think I'm gonna see how I feel at the end of 6. I've been told that if I'm going to take any breaks from the Yakuza series, after 6 and before 7 is the point to do it. Because once you hit 7 and Gaiden and 8 or Infinite Wealth and like it's very tough to put it down, and they just kind of
that's a great point.
Yeah, they just kind of flow into each other. So
yeah,
there's a chance I take a break for a game or two. I've thought about doing the Judgment series.
Nice.
So I might do Judgment in between. I might pick up. I do love the Ace Attorney series, so I might do another Ace Attorney game, just to maybe balance it a bit more and spread it out a little bit and savor it a bit more. So I would bet on there probably being a break between 6 and 7 for a game or two, but not long. And I plan to get back into it pretty quickly. Or who knows? Maybe 6 will make me just go like, screw it. I'm doing 7 right away.
We're here, baby. That's right.
Yeah. So that's the situation right now. I think the end of 6 will give me a bit more clarity.
Absolutely. All right, sweet. We're definitely looking forward to continuing that journey alongside you. We have another series that both of us are really into coming back later this year, except now we're heading into the anime and manga stuff. Our beloved Nisio Isin masterpiece, Shaft's magnum opus. I'm sorry, I love Sangatsu no Lion. It's also in my top 10, but Monogatari is one. That's just Monogatari is it. If Monogatari was a human, Monogatari is him. Monogatari is him. I could not be more excited for this, bro. Like, so last year, at the beginning of last year, I went on a journey where I'd gone through so many rewatches, and where I was at the time, where I was writing a certain point in my story, I couldn't stop going through Monogatari's second season, at least a certain section of it, and I kept going through it, and eventually I was like, you know what? Let me read the light novels from where I left off, because I'd already read all the light novels, and I decided to continue into where all of the light novels that have been translated, and it was a phenomenal journey. Some of my favorite stuff in the series is in there. My favorite arc in the series is in there. And so I was like, but this stuff's never gonna happen. So I was like, it's never gonna get animated. I was starting to give up. I was like, we got Zoku in like 2019. I was like, yeah, it's probably never gonna happen. To know that the year after, they are coming back with Monogatari, and they are going to be adapting all of that magnificent material, I could not be more excited, bro. I have to ask, have you read any of the light novels? And if you haven't, what is like your mindset right now going into this next portion of the story?
So I have an interesting relationship with Monogatari. It's kind of similar to 7 in that when I first watched it, I thought it was very good, but just didn't connect with it for whatever reason. A few years later, I rewatched it and just totally different. I adored it. I adored the characters a lot more. Probably just the point in my life I watched it the first time. I just wasn't able to pick up what it was putting down. But so I loved it. And actually, I don't know if you know, maybe you somehow missed my tweets about her, but Shinobu Kissshot, whatever you want to call her, she is my favorite character in the series, and I adore the cast, but she's my favorite. And not only my favorite in the series, but one of my favorites overall in general in fiction. She's just...
We love to see it.
I adore her so much, and so I realized the extent to which I loved her, and her and Araragi's relationship, which to me is like one of the best out there. They
love your video on that dynamic, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was... the rewatch inspired that, too. But yeah, because of that inspired me to read the Koyomi Vamp is Kizu's equivalent novels, right?
Yes.
Yep. So that inspired me to pick up those. And while I was at it, I just picked up the whole series. So I read Koyomi Vamp. I read the equivalent of Bake, all the stories in Bake. And then I started the Hanekawa stuff in second season. And then for whatever reason, I got kind of sidetracked. So I've read, I don't know, that might be roughly half of them or so
Right.
of the adapted material.
Hmm.
And I haven't gotten all the way through, but I have them on my shelf, like they're right behind me. So
Okay.
one day I'll get to them. But so yeah, I've read a decent amount of them, not all the adapted material, and that's really exciting for me because I mean it's a different sort of anticipation than you, who
Hmm.
you said one of your favorite arc is yet to be adapted, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
That's crazy.
yeah, dude. It's I said the same thing because for me, for so many years, Subasa Tiger, for me is like on a very very personal level. That is one of my favorite stories that's ever been told in anything. Like that stuff hits home so hard. I rewatch that arc in the anime and I read the novel at least 2 times a year. Ever since I first watched it. It's one of those very personal things for me. For me to say that there is something above
Mm.
that in the thing, I mean it with every fiber of my being. It's the stuff that's incoming. That's why I'm so excited for people to experience it because I feel like there's going to be something for everyone coming into this next season where I'm looking forward to seeing what certain arcs gel with people, what other arcs that don't, because just like with the rest of the Monogatari story, Nisio Isin creates so many different types of arcs with so many different types of characters that interact with each other that it's always interesting seeing which one lands with certain people because that just
Right.
tells you
Yeah.
like so it's one of those stories kind of like One Piece where each arc is so different. It's always exciting seeing which one sticks with people and so yeah, I can't wait to see which ones end up sticking with you, dude. And is that going to be the type of series that you're gonna watch on your own, not on stream? Like you're not gonna have like a weekly stream or anything like Monogatari drops, or that's just gonna be something you have personal as a personal watch?
I might, I was thinking about that. I think I might start out, depending on when in the year it comes out, what else I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing. I might start out, because there's time on. I used to do like weekly reactions on Sundays for like Vinland Saga when that was coming out,
Mm-hmm.
Kaguya-sama when that was coming out. Um, yeah, and so I think that's a good, like, that's a slot for Monogatari when it starts coming out. But like I think I'll start out doing it and then I'll gauge to see how the story is, because if it's very personal for me, I might
Mm-hmm.
want to just watch it on my own, just to,
Right.
because that's what Rebirth. We talked about this before. That's what
Yeah.
Rebirth is for me and you.
Yep. Yep.
Um, maybe it'll be that sort of story. I'm gonna have to gauge it for the first couple episodes, but if maybe it'll be one that I can share. If it is, then I'll be doing it every week. So I think I'm at least gonna watch a couple on stream, or react to them, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see where it goes from there.
Let's go. Regardless of what you end up choosing, what I will be on the lookout for your thoughts whenever it starts dropping because even before you and I became friends, I genuinely just really enjoyed your Monogatari stuff whenever you dropped them. So I'm looking forward to just talking to you about that in the future. Whenever the time, whenever they decide, whenever Shaft is like, all right, we're releasing them, whether it be summer, fall, whenever it is, we'll be there no matter what.
Yeah, I can't wait.
But dude, so now, we've talked a lot about pieces of peak that you have experienced that are some of my all-time favorites. Now I get an opportunity to talk about one of yours. Haikyu, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes,
The
sir.
legendary volleyball Furudate's masterpiece. We have the legendary Battle of the Garbage Dump about to be adapted very, very soon. But I just wanted to tell you here that I spammed this man. I spammed him for hours on end whenever I was going through Haikyuu, and it was one of those experiences because for me with Haikyuu, it's always an interesting one where when it first came out, I was so obsessed with it. I remember going through season 1, season 2. I loved it so much, and then after season 3, because of the long break they took, I didn't fall off or anything. I've always loved Haikyuu. I didn't have the thing where it was always in my mind. When season 4 came out, I absolutely adored it. And then when they took that break, I never came back for part 2 because I don't know, all the other craziness that was happening on the channel and everything, because I was reacting to it at the time. But then the I got the itch to really get back on the story, and it was because I was missing sports series a lot. Chihaya Furu had just recently stopped airing, and I was starting to get the itch, and then. Oh, I should say recently. It didn't recently stop airing. It was like a couple years before that. But regardless, I was in the itch for like doing another rewatch of like one of my favorites. And I remembered that we had a conversation where you told me. I don't remember if I know I had it with you, but I think I also had it with some of my other friends like Laz and Silva, who are also really into Haikyu. Where I asked all of you guys, like, do you guys think it's possible that they can pull this off? The final couple of arcs in the movie length of time, and I always got the same answers where it was like it's definitely like a doable thing, but it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do it. And I just woke up one day while I was feeling absolutely horrible. I was like, man, I got up on you sometimes you just get up on the wrong foot or on the wrong side of the bed. And when I got to work, I was like, dude, I just need a good pick-me-up. And I decided to start off exactly where I left off on Haikyu in the anime. And I just got so addicted. I was like, this is what I was missing, man. It's like, it was as if I had gotten back into the chair that was left behind when I stopped watching Season 4, Part 1 at the final episode. And then to go from there to the manga was just one of the greatest experiences ever, man. That manga binge, every single time I finished a chapter, I was like, how did these guys read this weekly? This is nuts. This is insane. And so I have to ask you, now that I have an opportunity to talk to somebody who's gone through this greatness, how was that Haikyu, even before the final stuff, like all of like the craziness before that and leading into the final arc of Haikyu, like that entire experience that I binged in the manga only material that we have that's about to get adapted here soon. How was it to read that stuff weekly, bro?
It was honestly incredible. I think reading Haikyu has to be my favorite weekly experience. I got into it, funnily enough, right during the Nekoma match, right during the first set or something. So kind of when you came back into it and started reading is when I started reading weekly.
Gotcha.
And it's just like, it's crazy because on one hand you are just desperate for the next chapter, and it's such an easy binge because while it's not like there's substance and richness in every chapter, but you just need more because it's so engaging and thrilling, and you need to see these characters and how their journeys continue. But at the same time, it was like, it's the sort of thing I imagine is the case with One Piece, where it's like you just need more, but also every chapter, like, you could dissect a line of dialogue forever. You could. It's not like you're not satiated by one of the chapters, even if it's like a rally that goes by so quick and you read it in 3 or 4 minutes. You can go back and look at little expressions or bits of dialogue and remember how it calls back to something from 100 chapters ago. And so I was kind of forced to do a lot of that because otherwise I would have gone insane waiting for more. And it really helped enrich the experience for Nekoma, and especially, like, I think one of the most underrated and slept on parts of Haikyu is Fukurodani versus Muji Nazaka.
Greatness.
It's amazing, and I think unfortunately if something's going to be skipped out in the adaptation, it's probably that, which is in and of itself a good reason to read the manga. But anyway, like, they're doing the same thing for that, and we have Haikyuu's Kiryu and his journey and reflecting off Bokuto and Akashi, and just the more you go on, the more it sort of accumulates, and it's this great dualism of I need the next one, but also I'm going to go back and read that for the rest of the week and find new things every time. And then when you get to the final arc, it was honestly unbelievable. It was a really special time in my life because every chapter, once you get to those final chapters, it's like every chapter is a character piece. It's just a character masterpiece.
Every chapter, bro.
Yeah, 1 week I have Kageyama, completely recontextualizing Kageyama's character. The next I have Atsumu and the twins, and Kita, and Nishinoya, and then you have Ushijima, and Hoshiumi again. Like, every week, there was a masterclass for a new character.
Yes.
And it was just like, it got to a point where I wasn't even desperate for the next one. I would just read it and just kind of like, tears in my eyes, sit back and just, reflect on the last 10 minutes of reading the chapter and just how lucky I am to experience this story. And then I'd share it with the community. I'd talk about it with my friends. I'd tweet about it. It was so special. It is, like I said, it's to this day my favorite weekly experience so far of any story. And it's going to be hard to top that. It's just the way Furudate put together the matches and then the final arc and the community experience and how each chapter was like its own story in and of itself. It was just so special. And so, which is why, like, I have dedicated a large part of my internet presence to the story and done so many videos. I've done a stream series about it. And so seeing you get into it was so gratifying. And not just get into it, like you saying outright, like, this is now one of my favorite stories. That was so great. And like, it's not like I didn't think that would happen, because I know your taste and I know Haikyu and it's so up your alley. But it was great to see it all come together. But yeah, to answer the question, super special, unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's and I'm thankful that I have you as a witness that went through all of that. It's like you were talking about with like the character pieces, or even for me as someone who really loves time skips, right? Like from whenever a time skip is about to be executed in any story, it's one of my favorite things in anything. But what impressed me so much about Haikyu is that it reminded me of whenever I went through that time period with One Piece right before Return to Sabaody, where you have these phenomenal chapters leading into it. You don't know what's coming, but once you get the 3D2Y message, you're like, oh, snap. Like, this is what's happening. With Haikyu, it's the same thing, where you get that phenomenal for a better tomorrow, who will you be tomorrow panel, and you're like, oh God, is it happening? Like, oh, is this what they're going for? And to go to the next chapter and have that, and not just have a time skip, it's huge. That to me was what shocked me. Where I was like, how far in the future are we?
Yeah,
and
it's immense.
Solving that mystery and following Hinata's journey, because most of my I've found this as one of the interesting threads in a lot of my favorite stories is that when a character is isolated, especially the main character is isolated and put in a position where you're no longer surrounded by a lot of the other characters that they're normally, a lot of the supporting cast and stuff, and it's just them, and they're building these new relationships with other characters after you haven't seen them for a long time. I always loved that, and Haikyu pulled it off so masterfully that I was already a fan of Hinata, but his arc at the beginning of the final arc is so well executed, so well done, and it's exactly what I needed coming off of what just happened at the end of the Fukurodani stuff. And I was so thankful that Furudate took his time really showing how hard Hinata was working here, and also how much that loss impacted him to this day. And it was like, oh, this is phenomenal, man. And I really loved what started taking place after that. Whenever, because after a time skip, it's always fascinating to see how the other characters get reintroduced.
Right. And
I think that Haikyu paced that out so well, where when you finally start getting to see the old characters, not only is that moment of fan service, but you also get not only the loose ends being tied up, but some of the characters at their absolute best in their final moments in the series. And to me, that's so impressive because Haikyu is such a high quality story, because there have been arcs and chapters and certain things dedicated to these characters. And to have specific moments within the final arc be my most memorable moments of those characters is so impressive. When you can finish off anything on a high note, it's extremely difficult. Endings are like the most divisive thing ever. There is no hint of divisiveness in my mind when it comes to Haikyuu's ending. Thing, Furudate there could be 600 million parallel universes. Furudate picked the right one. That ending was perfect. From 369, 370 until 402, 403 was absolutely generational. Like, it was not only generational in terms of like we're talking about in terms of from like a writing standpoint and the incredible stuff that he was doing and flexing his peak fiction juice, but just from a personal standpoint, I felt so inspired by the things that were happening. Like, it turned into a Chihaya thing. One of the things I love about Chihaya Furu is when I see Chihaya doing everything she can to push forward. We got to see that with Hinata, and obviously Hinata's done that throughout the course of the entire story, but specifically in the final arc, because it's so hyper-focused on that. Man, I can't even tell you. I would finish reading one of those chapters, and I'm like, dude, I want to write right now. Or yeah. I want to go out and do something. And so I just have to thank individuals like you and Shaw and Laz and Silva and so many people who for a very long amount of time managed to somehow keep me unspoiled for that journey.
I don't know how you got that with me.
Dude, like, and that's the craziest part, right? I guess the same thing could be said like vice versa with One Piece. I don't know how you remain unspoiled.
I don't either.
With me on One Piece, but it's just I'm so grateful that everything happened the way that it did. Even though I would have loved to be there with you guys for the weekly experience, it came at the right time with the right message at the right moment. And because of that, Haikyu was one of those like time capsules of now I'll always remember how I felt and how it was the 2 days or 3 days, whatever it was, that I ended up reading Haikyu. And it will forever be a memorable experience, man. That junk was so goated. It's so peak.
I love to hear that. I love that for you. I love like anytime you have a new addition to your peak fiction and a story that not only is just a wonderful story, but that is important to you personally in one way or another.
Right.
It's something to be celebrated, and so I just love that for you. And I love what you were saying about the final arc because, you know, it is perfect. 600 million alternate universes, and Furudate picked the right one. And it's crazy because, you know, Twitter is Twitter, and online discourse is online discourse. And you talk about any ending or any like current arc, and it's divisive to an extent. You know, we got current Jujutsu Kaisen. We have like I would tweet about the end of Naruto, which we'll talk about in a bit. There are people who hate it. There are people who say it's awful. Wano. I'm going through Wano in One Piece. There are some people that really dislike Wano. And Attack on Titan, even Hunter x Hunter, Chimera Ant has some haters.
It does.
But Haikyu, of course, there are always going to be some. But I think it has to be one of the most universally accepted, like this is perfection endings ever, and which is crazy because time skips can be amazing, but they're also risky. We look back at Furudate's decision to do a time skip, and it seems like the most natural thing ever because it worked out so perfectly. But it's a big decision to make, and the biggest compliment we can pay is that it feels like it just had to happen now. But in the moment, you know, there are some people, including me, I'm like, I have utmost faith this is a masterpiece, but I don't know. I hope it's as fulfilling as it could be, and it was all that and more. Like, you're speaking of character moments in the final arc, even the ones outside of volleyball, even those who weren't playing, like
Yeah.
people would speculate. Speaking of the weekly experience, people would speculate weeks on end. Oh, we haven't seen Noya yet. Him. People would say like him and Kudo and Tendo are forming some super team in and you know, obviously Noyo is extremely one of the best liberos we see in the entire story, so he could go pro if he wanted to. But what is the less easy thing to write, but the more natural and fitting thing to write and more powerful, is him just on the coast of Italy fishing for marlin.
He's going freaks.
he is, yeah, and he is embodying all the character he's been to in the most loyal way possible. It is one of my favorite character conclusions is Noya's Kita with the farming the wheat, sending the wheat to Osamu, who then sends it to his who then gives it to his brother. This support system of Inarizaki. It is so poetic. It is so perfect, and I could just talk about it forever. But I totally agree, and I'm so glad that I can talk about this stuff with you now, because it is
for real.
It's just unparalleled. It's just amazing.
Mm-hmm. I have to ask before we go into our main topic of the show here. I've heard yourself and others talk about another series by Production IG that I've been considering getting into. Especially, I just recently finished Awashi. It was a masterful experience, and I've been sort of feeling the itch for a sports series after I go through the FF7 Rebirth experience.
Are you going to say what I think you're going to say? Okay, let's see.
Run with the Wind.
Yes.
Run with the Wind. In regards to that series, just let me hear your spoiler-free thoughts on it, and would you recommend that to me?
Okay, when you say spoiler-free, can I say like general style or
okay, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Run with the Wind is my second favorite sports manga. Or sorry, sports anime.
You already sold me.
Yeah, it is Haikyu's number 1, Run with the Wind is number 2.
Okay.
And I've seen quite a few, and I love Chihaya Furu. I love don't know if you've seen Megalobox, don't you?
Yes.
Ping Pong the animation.
Yep.
So like I've seen a lot. Kuroko no Basket, amazing. But it is my second favorite, and it came to me at a very important time in my life. It was one of those. So I have personal attachment to it. But just generally, in terms, like, I think there's quite a bit of, from the production standpoint, there's quite a bit of carryover from Haikyu staff. So there's, you'll get that sort of beautiful Haikyu anime presentation. So you can look forward to that. Yuki Hayashi composes, so I mean, it's gonna sound beautiful. It's gonna sound and look beautiful. But stylistically, it's got some of the most organic and wonderful character writing and dynamics that you can ever see in anything. Like, it isn't afraid, like we were talking about with Yakuza 5, to take its time at points. It has a very similar spirit to Haikyu, but it can be slower, a little bit more gradual and slice of lifey in moments, to build the foundations for the payoff. Awesome. And it is an older cast, so it's, rather than it being high school, it's college. So
ooh, nice.
Yeah,
okay.
So I was just out of college having watched it, and so it was very nostalgic going through it and seeing these young adults trying to find themselves in this world and what running means to them and how it helps them in different ways. And I think it's a beautiful series for anyone just in general, but if you love sports and the sort of the very shonen trajectories that these sports characters can go through, and if you've gone to college and or a sort of similar sort of time in your life where you did a bit of soul searching, it is perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And it's got some of my favorite sports anime characters, very similar stylistically to Haikyu, I'd say, just older cast and sort of a bit slower and more gradual in style. But if you loved Haikyu, so I think if you check it out, you'll really enjoy it.
Yo, definitely gonna add it to the watch list. And after Rebirth, when the anime binge itch comes in, Run with the Wind will be the move.
Perfect.
I'm excited. I'm super excited. But yeah, that's something I look forward to discussing with you as well. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time for us to talk about. AJ was just talking about in regards to Haikyu. It's always nice when somebody joins the boat of peak fiction, right? The for something that's so personal and means so much to you. Each of the big three, as everyone knows, means everything to me. All three of these hold such a special place in my heart for different reasons, and Naruto in particular is one that is one of those experiences where I can't imagine, just like the other two. I can't imagine my life without it. And so when I heard that you were catching up to it alongside One Piece, it made me so happy, because not only was I going to be able to see someone going through One Piece and binging certain sections, I was so excited to see how that would fare with Naruto in 2023, now going into 2024, considering that, you hear for so many years Naruto is a product of its time. Naruto is this thing that's just nostalgic. For a lot of people, that's the only reason why we hold it in such high regard. And so I could not wait to see how you would feel about it with no nostalgic attachment to it. And to know, when I saw your thread and you gave it a big fat whopping 10, I was like, holy flagnards, man. Because I'd seen quite a few of the experience that you had with it. Wasn't able to be there for all of it, but it was just so cool seeing you go through that journey and continuing to have that incredible experience, where it just felt like I couldn't have imagined a more incredible scenario for you as a person experiencing the story than to share this with so many people that I know in your community are massive fans of Naruto, and love the story with all their hearts. So knowing how incredible they've been with me, seeing you go through that journey, they must have been absolutely awesome. And so I want to turn it over to you. And with my first question in regards to Naruto is, what makes Masashi Kishimoto's Naruto a 10 to AJ?
Wow. So, basically, well, this is what I tend to say when people ask me if something is a 10. Like, why is something a strong 9? Why are you being so... If I give something that they love a strong 9 or a 9.5, like, just give it a 10. Just give it a 10. But I have a very specific criteria for it. And I don't know if you know what I mean, but maybe you do. It's basically... something in my mind clicks when I'm reading a story, and like something clicks into place, and it's just like you're in a flow state as you're experiencing it, and you're just going, yeah, this is a made for me story. This is something that just speaks to me on a transcendent level. This isn't just a wonderful story. This is a story that feels like it was put on this earth for me to read or watch or play it or whatever.
Spitting, brother.
And that's Naruto. That's Naruto. It got to a point where I'm just like, no, this story's so special, and it just gets better. People were telling me that it falls off after Land of Waves. People were saying like, and no shade on Land of Waves. Land of Waves is one of the best first arcs ever, but
it is.
But Naruto gets better and better the more you go. And which just made me like flabbergasted that people would say that, and I just keep going, and it would just get better and better, and then it got to a point where I'm like, okay, internally this is a 10, and the only reason I'm not saying that is because I haven't finished it yet, and I just want to finish it to just make it clear. Who knows? It's not it's basically impossible for Kishimoto to drop the ball. But it's not impossible because I haven't finished it, so I'll just wait.
Right.
And I knew he wouldn't let me down, and he didn't. And then it not only was the ending solidifying that it didn't drop the ball, but the ending was, I think, my favorite stuff. The 700 chapter long build up and payoff of one of the greatest fictional dynamics relationships ever.
Yes.
Made me cry in anime and manga. It's still fresh. Like I finished it, I guess, a week and a half ago. And I still I'm thinking about that and Yakuza and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Wano. That's all that's in my mind.
Wano!
That's all that's in my mind.
Yep.
But especially Naruto because I finished it and I'm just like,
For
I
sure.
got that hole in my heart. But that hole in your heart kind of tells you that it's a 10, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, it just has everything I look for in a story. It has basically, and it just clicked. It clicked for me, and I was so glad when it did, and I was so glad that it carried forward till the end. And just, you know, it is very difficult for the last few chapters of a story to be the best with something as good as Naruto. But in my opinion, it just was.
Yeah.
It's so difficult to pay off a relationship like that. But Kishimoto did it. Like I'm still in awe at how it all came together.
Yeah. Fiji and I had that conversation a while ago where we were talking about chapter 699, which is, I believe, and I think the consensus is pretty strong in regards to, at the very least, that chapter, that truly is one of the greatest chapters in Shonen Jump history.
Yeah, for sure.
It just brings so many things together. The story was trying to tell, its themes, its character arcs, just a whole bunch of things come to a head there, and it's just perfect. But the thing that impressed me the most, and it's a similar thing that I have with a couple of my other favorite long-term stories, is the patience that it took to get to that point, because Kishimoto, at the beginning of Shippuden, of Part 2, heading into, I want to say it's like the beginning of 300s, when he really started the Sasuke POV. He goes from the Naruto and Sasuke POV and balances those two POVs individually until they come together towards the, I believe it's around chapter 737, or 630, 631, whenever they show up on the battlefield together. Up until that point, you have like a 400 chapter time span of several years of Kishimoto balancing these two POVs to ensure that when not only they meet is this going to be impactful, but when the war comes to a close and we have those final chapters and we understand exactly where both of them are coming from, and they have that clash with each other, and then they have that moment of understanding each other, it is one of the most satisfying things I have ever experienced, because it took 500 chapters of masterful, and I mean that wholeheartedly, because to write that on a weekly basis, as someone who is in the middle of writing a story and going through multiple revisions, just to make that stuff work, it is so impressive that Masashi Kishimoto, for over 400 chapters, kept two consistent POVs that were both incredible, and led, once they officially combined, into some of the best stuff in Shonen Jump history. It is so masterful. And what I wanted to ask you in regards to that is, how did you feel about the way that Kishimoto balanced Naruto and Sasuke's POV throughout the course of the story? And when they finally culminated at the end, how did you feel about the way that he brought all of that together? Because I feel like you talked about earlier in regards to it being one of your favorite dynamics, that's one of the reasons why it is that way for me too. Because you see not only stuff that's happening in the manga, but behind the scenes, you're seeing the masterful planning and the masterful writing that must have taken place in Kishimoto's head to make all of that work and actually have it be impactful. And it's in the patience, like I said, in regards to have that from arc to arc to arc to arc to arc. And even though they do end up meeting up at the end of the Five Kage Summit, it doesn't take away at all. Because if anything, them meeting up again propels the experience after that to where once the Ninja War officially starts, you see what they both have to go through and overcome to get to where they do at the end of the story. And so I just wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on the way that Kishimoto balanced the two POVs, and when it culminates in that final volume, just the way that things came together for those two characters in particular? Talk to me about Naruto and Sasuke and your thoughts on both characters.
Yeah, I think the way it was balanced is pretty much perfection. I think it's maybe the biggest strength of the story is how both of the characters are approached consistently throughout. I did this thing while I was streaming, which was a character ranking, and at the beginning of every stream, I'd have my top the ranking of characters, and if there was a big Itachi week, maybe Itachi went up a bunch of spots. If there was a big Madara week, he'd go up a bunch, and people would go like, "Oh, cool! Like Madara went up 5 spots or whatever." But consistent throughout was, in some order, Naruto and Sasuke were 1 and 2. That never changed. It never changed throughout the entire run. And that isn't to say that it's lopsided or anything, because the supporting cast, I just mentioned Madara. There's Obito. My God.
That's coming. That's a question I'm going to ask. Don't worry. That's coming.
Yeah.
That's coming.
There's Kakashi and Minato and Kushina and Sakura and Shikamaru. Like, this cast is one of the best ever. But the fact that those two are at the top every week just shows how different they're built. So the point of views were essentially done to perfection. Like, Naruto is, I mean, the series is after his name. He is the central protagonist, and Sasuke is, while being a protagonist, the antagonist for the majority of the story. The way they sort of have this adversarial. They clearly have love for each other, but also just are facing each other, facing off. That sort of relationship. Mm-hmm. So Naruto, I kind of expected what we got from Naruto. I was shocked at its quality, and it is a beautiful path and journey that he goes through. Little moments of, you see where he goes at the end of the series, and you could forget all the struggles he went through and the times where he stumbled, and his panic attack, and these little moments of darkness where he lost belief in himself but was pushed on by those around him who push him on because he changed their lives. Like, I think of Hinata and how she inspires him during the Chunin exams, because of the way he inspired her and stuff like that. Like, it is not a simple character arc where it's just up and up and up and up the more time goes by. There are progressions and regressions, and it reminds me of Naruto is written in a way kind of similar to Usopp for me. There's a very clear trajectory, but very human struggles along the way.
I love that.
And then, so that's why it's great to see him become this hero. Like, it's impossible to not get emotional at Iruka looking on at him at the end of the pain arc and just going, there's this hero in our midst. And then at the end of the series, of course. But Naruto is, like, I was thinking to myself when I started the series, I could never have imagined that Naruto as a character would be as good as he is, or that the series would be as good as it was. But I was thinking, like, if it is that good, that is more or less the sort of thing I would expect from Naruto. It wasn't a super unexpected character arc. Sasuke shocked me the way it was approached. I think he has to be one of the most meticulously plotted character arcs in, like, any story in recent memory.
100%.
Because his 100%. Psychology from the start is very loaded, very dense with so many factors: inferiority complex, a need to prove himself, a need to be acknowledged, and this vengeful streak, and all this stuff. How he looks at his life's quest, how he looks at Naruto, and the idea of connection, and the idea of Itachi, and all this stuff. And it gradually changes as time goes on. The way that he interacts with Orochimaru, the way that he's subtly manipulated by Obito, into learning what Itachi never meant for him to learn, and then turning his rage towards Konoha. And then, and the thing is, it's at face value. And then ultimately, he says at the end, "I want to become Hokage. I want to bear all the hatred in the world, all the darkness in the world, because that's the only answer I see." This lonely quest that is too lonely for any human to bear. Like, and some of the decisions, like, it's kind of overwhelming how all the places he goes. But if you really plot it out and think about every step of the way, the characters that impact him, the way his psychology evolves, it all makes sense. It's all so beautifully planned out. It's so meticulous. It's so understandable. It's so genuine and human. And I think I didn't know what role he'd have in the series. I didn't know he'd have this sort of pseudo-villain antagonist role. I didn't know if he'd be like a Killua or like a Kageyama, not in sports terms, but like in a... I didn't know. And so when I saw that he would go that direction, I was really pleased because it was so unexpected. But nothing could have prepared me for how beautifully his point of view was expressed, and like Kishimoto spared no thought, no line of dialogue in letting us know exactly how he thinks, why he thinks those things, and why he approaches life the way he does. And it just, to me, all that made him one of my favorite characters of all time. Chapter 698 at the end, where he kind of puts it all together internally and expresses it. The words I've been waiting to hear for hundreds of chapters, that made him truly, I think he's my favorite character. He goes back and forth with him and Naruto, but when that happened, I'm like, this guy, he is just so special. And of course, exact same for Naruto and their dynamic as a whole. So I think it's one of the most impressive feats of writing I've seen, not just in shonen, but in fiction in general. Like, to do that over 700 chapters and for it to be basically perfect the whole way and to pay off in the way it does, it's just so special and beyond words to me.
Yeah, no, beautifully said. It's I'm so glad that Sasuke impacted you the way that he did. It was so Sasuke for me was always so interesting, where I was always such a Naruto guy for so long. When it comes to between the two characters, even though I absolutely loved and appreciated what Kishimoto was doing with Sasuke, and was always one of my favorites. But when I got to that final stretch and I realized what Kishimoto was actually doing with Sasuke, he skyrocketed. Not just he was always one of my top 3 bare minimum, but he like skyrocketed just in general. Where I was like, oh my goodness, this is what this man was doing the whole time with Sasuke's character. And every reread I've done since I finished the story has just further propelled and given me confidence in how I feel about that. And it's incredible what he did with both characters. But because I was already so in love with what he was doing with Naruto, every reread that I experience now with this story, the Sasuke route, as you will, video game terms, it's always what sticks out to me, because whenever you're planning out a story, a lot of the times you'll have a lot of the things for the main character planned out, a lot of the side characters, a lot of the villains you can't wait to see. But the Sasuke thing is so cool because for the beginning of Shippuden, he's in the background. You hear about him, kind of Sephiroth-y, but then you finally get to see him and see what he's up to. Then you follow his journey, and the way that that both of them are continuously executed. The way that he, like you said, is impacted by the other individuals that he comes around, or that he meets, and not just those that are willing to support him, but also the antagonists as well. You know, he changes after each battle. He changed after Deidara, after Itachi, after Killer Bee, after the Five Kage Summit against all the individuals there, and then against Danzo, and then it's incredible how that comes together there at the end. And I'll tell you what, dude, just in terms of Go Raw Fire Peak stuff, Naruto and Sasuke fighting together after all of those years in the final arc is some of the coolest and rawest stuff ever, man. Some of those panels and episodes in the anime are absolutely legendary. Absolutely legendary, man. Going on the topic of characters and this entire experience, I want to talk to you about Obito, because Obito, when the story was first being released on a weekly format standpoint, was without question the most divisive and controversial character. But what was always fascinating about Obito is when I had a conversation with somebody who has Naruto very high on their list, they would always tell me Obito is one of the reasons why. So many people have been impacted by Obito's story. It's one of the most. Kishimoto places so much emphasis on the planning for that reveal, but what happens both whenever he's masked and unmasked is not only so brilliant and so on brand for him once you get to find out more about him, but the character journey, his character as a whole, what it represents, his character conclusion is one of the major highlights of the story for me. And I know it is for a lot of people, especially as the years have gone on. So I know how much you like Obito based on what I've heard from you. So talk to me about Obito, and in particular, how your thoughts evolved from whenever he was Toby to when you thought he was Madara, and then when you got the reveal that I know you were anticipating on him being Obito, how that entire experience was with his character.
Oh man, yeah. To sum up, he's absolutely an all-time antagonist. He's, I think, my third favorite after Naruto and Sasuke. He's just generational. He's unbelievable, and I love they use the word evolution, because your feelings, the reader's feelings with Obito, evolve like nothing else in the series. It is incredible, the dynamism and variability and how he impacts the story. He does it in so many different ways. He starts off, and he also has so many parallels. Like, he has parallels with Kakashi, one of the best dynamics in the whole story.
Yes.
With Rin, with Naruto, with Sasuke, with Madara, with Pain, how they foil one another, with Nagato rather, and so many dynamics to throw characters into sharp relief. But he's central to so many of them. But when he's introduced, the way he appeals to me is kind of from a engagement perspective. He isn't an emotional character at the beginning. He's very menacing and dark and shrouded in mystery, and you're like, who is this masked guy? What is his role in the story going to be? What's his true motive? Is he, like, he's clearly the puppet master to an extent. He's manipulating Sasuke. He's manipulating Nagato, whatever. Like, what? But what is his deal? Because you can't really put your finger on why. And the fact that his identity is a mystery, and he's kind of very flippant and carefree in his personality a lot of the time, just contributes to him being this, like, he drove me insane, because he'd drop a line and I'd be like, what does that mean? Like, who are you?
It was the Conjuro thing all over
again. It really, I had the Conjuro thing, and I had the Toby Obito thing going parallel. going parallel at the same time. So he appeals to you from an engagement perspective, like putting together the puzzle of who he is. And that, all while being interesting in terms of characterization and personality and dynamics and role in the story. And that is nothing to scoff at. Like, that in itself made him one of my favorite characters just because I was having so much fun and I was so invested in him. Without having even really seen the core of his character. That's so impressive for him to be one of the most engaging characters without knowing really what he's all about. But then the way that it comes together and the hints that are presented, we get some imagery with his eye and certain ways in which he mirrors Kakashi that put ideas in your mind. Then he has this section where he's kind of training. Is it with, I don't know who he's training with, Hidan or something? I'm not sure. He's training with someone in the Akatsuki.
Yeah.
And he has like his own little training montage. And I thought it was kind of fun and endearing and charming as he's just like, oh boy, this is tough. And at the same time, Naruto's going on his own training arc.
Yes.
They were side by side. And so I was reading these things as they were going by, and I'm going, he really parallels Naruto. Like, this is kind of crazy. They're going on their own journeys from different sides of the antagonist-protagonist spectrum. What does that mean? And, having read the whole series, it makes sense now. It makes tons of sense. That is a beautiful piece of foreshadowing that I realized, I picked up on it, but I'm just like, what does that mean? Right. And of course, there are lots of parallels, similarities between Obito and Naruto in Kakashi Gaiden. That is hard to miss. So slowly I went, okay, I think I know who this is, but the way it comes together and the way it's executed is very gratifying, but it's also, the moment his mask comes off and you realize who he is, his role in the story completely turns on its head in a way that feels consistent. It doesn't betray who he was, but it becomes much more emotional, much more tying in with the spirit of the series. And Naruto is full of these antagonists who give up hope or take the easy way out because they have seen in Obito's, well, all of them in one way or another, they have seen hell. And, Naruto has as well. He has every reason to give up, but he consistently talk no jutsus his way through all of them. And Obito, well, I guess Sasuke was the final battle for that, but Obito was the most personal up until that point of any, and the most personal for me of any character that isn't Sasuke, because of how they can understand one another. And also Obito has a dynamic with Naruto's dad, with Minato. And so seeing it all come together and seeing his backstory, finally seeing how he turned from that boy into this really heinous manipulator for Sasuke, seeing how Madara was involved in all of that and sort of grooming him this way. It is just peak, absolutely beautiful character writing, that backstory, to see this gradual evolution. And accentuating that is, I couldn't believe it when I first heard it. Megami Han playing young Obito in the flashback. Yep. I mean, there's no one better in the industry to do those sorts of screams, those
great point,
guttural, pained screams. I hear them with Gon and Chimera Ant. I hear them with Obito. Beautiful, wonderful casting for that. But then the imagery of the "this is hell" moment, the sort of spiral, the bodies, the lake of blood.
Pete Kishimoto right there.
It is just, it shakes me to my core just thinking about it now. That is some of the best imagery, if not the best imagery in the whole series, accentuating his descent and really nailing in home how he became this way. It wasn't just, that he loved Rin and Rin died and he turned dark side. It was an accumulation of so much, banking so much dependency on the idea of hope represented by Rin, but so much more than that. That just so much added up. And there are so many different elements that led to his dark descent, and leading him to believe that the Tsukinome was the answer. Um,
Right.
it is just similar to Sasuke in that it's so meticulous. Uh, so what I just love that he is, on one hand, this one of the most engaging characters I've ever seen, just from a pure entertainment standpoint, and then he becomes one of the most deeply emotional antagonists I've ever seen, and foils Naruto so beautifully, and has such amazing emotional imagery. He just does it all. He just does it all.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna be, from this point on, like one of the first examples of just how to write a multifaceted, rich, complex, and emotional antagonist. He's just unbelievable.
100%. I feel like Obito, and I absolutely love what you said, by the way. Obito, he, through time, has sort of evolved in just the grand scheme of things, based on his dream whenever he goes on that dark descent, and he decides that, you know what, screw all this, I'm done with reality, let's go ahead and settle for a dream landscape. And where we are today, in 2024, I can't even tell you the amount of times I've heard that statement come out of somebody's mouth, where they wish they could just, you know, escape the reality that they're given in order to escape into whether it's a virtual world like a video game, or something else, just to forget everything that's happening. And Obito, and it came to a sort of a similar, a sort of a conclusion that involves the entire planet, similar to Pain, similar to Nagato.
Yes.
Where they're trying to make it better for everyone, right? Like, they're, in their mind, they're like, no, this will be better for everyone involved. They won't have to go through / what I went through and what other people like me went through. I don't want other people to go through that. It's like they're doing this, of course, for themselves, but they're also doing this for future generations. And it's so brilliant in the way that it's done, where you have somebody in an Naruto, who has to deal with both of those characters, but has to deal with a present scenario, things that are very, very important to them, and we continue to see the journey that gets them to that point, to where the characters reject a reality based in dreams, because the one that they're living in, as terrifying as it may be, even though they're facing the most powerful creature on the planet in Madara, or they're facing what feels like a reincarnation of the Sage Six Paths in Obito, even that is, to them, because they're with each other, because of the bonds they've made, because of all of the experiences they've had with each other, and the dreams that they have that they want to accomplish, and they accept reality. And it's one of those really powerful messages in the middle of that final arc that's always stuck with me, because to escape into a dream reality is so easy. It's something that, of course, anybody will be able to do, but the most difficult thing to do is accept that reality. And it's a very, very strong message, and it ties directly into the Talk no Jutsu that takes place after, where Naruto has to accept the reality at hand on who Obito is. Like, this is the individual that took out that's the reason why both of his parents are dead.
Right.
Like, this is the reason why his entire life has been the way that it's been up until this point, which is his own version of hell, like Obito was talking about. And for Naruto to take all of that and talk to him in the way that he did was so beautiful, because he would not have been able to do that had he not gone through the Pain Talk no Jutsu, had he not gone through the Gaara Talk no Jutsu, Zabuza. Like, that conversation by itself showcased how Naruto had grown from chapter 1 until, I believe that was like chapter 650 something, up until that point, where the entire story of Talk no Jutsu, this one consistent thing that Naruto has had with every single character, where he learns, grows, and evolves with every single one of these Takano Jutsus. When it comes to the two final ones, it's because of all the others and all the other experiences that he was able to come to the answer he had in that moment, which is to face the reality situation, and it was up to him. He could have easily been like, all right, I'm going to take this dude out because he took out my pops, he took out my mom, and we could just end it there. But no, that wasn't the answer that Naruto, the character, was ever going to have. And it was thanks to the experiences he had with Kurama inside of him and meeting Kushina. And it was like, so many different things led to his decision there. And the overall, the everybody that was a part of their side of the war and their collective decision to reject that dream-based reality. And for individuals who are who at some point in time, whenever they're reading through Naruto, if you ever feel like things are extremely difficult at that point in time and you just want to escape into something else, Kishimoto, as I'm sure he has felt, as we've all felt in multiple different moments of wanting to escape, he presents that so beautifully to the reader that this is something that we go through and there's a reason why we want to do this. But accepting reality is, even though it may be hard, that's the thing that we have to do, man. And I wanted to say that because that to me is what allows Obito to be such a strong character. Because not only for everything that we mentioned, and how he's just a strong on-screen presence, and then after, the emotional through line, the themes that he represents, but it's that sequence in the middle of that part of the arc that's always stuck out to me as to why he's such a fantastic character. Both him and Naruto's relationship just coming into and blossoming right there. It's so good, so good.
Yeah, it's I love the way you put that. It's sort of an encapsulation of that is Naruto talking about how the importance of walking the rocky and difficult path rather than taking shortcuts in general through life. Not only is accepting reality something that we all have to do, but it is, if done properly, if it's difficult, but if done properly, it is fulfilling to do it, to come out the other side. I don't remember, or if I don't know if I know this. Have you played Persona 5 Royal?
I've played Persona 5.
Okay.
Royal I haven't finished, but yeah, I haven't, unfortunately.
Then I will say no more. Yeah. But but it's like, it's very similar to Ava.
Yes.
Ava,
yes.
like, there are some differences, but like the idea of instrumentality, I think, is very similar to the Tsuki no Me.
Yes. 100%.
The answer that Shinji comes to at the end is very similar to Naruto. It is difficult, it is the hardest thing in the world, but as long as you're alive and properly living, you can always rebuild, you can always find these connections, and you can find the beauty within those that pain and come out the other side better for it. And it's such a beautiful message. A lot of my favorite stories have that sort of message, and Naruto did it in a way that I haven't really seen before. And
same.
And it's wonderful. And Obito's the core of that.
Yes. Yep. With us on the concept of themes and characters who had to endure hardships and are sort of symbols for that. I know that obviously a character that comes to mind whenever we think of that kind of stuff is Itachi. I wanted to get your thoughts on several of the Uchiha legends, right? The Itachis, Madaras. Whenever you so expectations for those characters, did you ever hear of like the legend of Itachi? Because Itachi's a pretty legendary figure in our community, or Madara. Did you hear anything about these characters beforehand for what to expect from them, and how did those characters match up to those expectations, if you did have any for them.
We kind of mentioned it earlier. I have this very crazy lucky ability to, well, I don't know if it's luck, but for these classic characters, I just have somehow been able to stay spoiler free for One Piece, for Bleach. Like I don't know much, if I hardly know anything, and for Naruto too. So I might have seen stuff on Twitter. I'm sure I did, but because I wasn't into Naruto at the time, I just phased it out. I never remembered anything. So I'm sure I had seen stuff on Twitter about Madara, about Obito, about these characters, but I hadn't retained it. With Itachi though, I knew of Itachi. I knew his name. Actually, I might have known Madara's name as well. I don't know, but I knew of Itachi, and I knew he had some sort of like vague connection to Sasuke, I believe. That was the extent of it. But the moment we first see him in the manga, he has this presence that is very skulking in the dark. You mentioned Sephiroth earlier. To me, his early presence in the story reminds me of Sephiroth, the way that he is overlying everything, this dark, ominous shadow. And so he's very dynamic too, in how he turns from that into, again, one of the most heartfelt characters in the entire story. But yeah, I didn't know a ton about him. I think I knew his name, and that's basically it. And it was very dialectical. It was very contained to the story. That my vision of him was what Sasuke told me, and so I was very excited for him because he seemed to have this incredible presence and aura and darkness, and I love those sorts of characters. And I knew that, like, once you get a bit of an introduction to him, there's more to him, but I could not have imagined that he would have ended up as amazing as he is. He could have been one of my favorite characters in the whole story after his goodbye to Sasuke and all that in the fated battle between brothers arc. But he comes back and is even more amazing.
It's even better.
And is elevated. And then he plays a role in the final fight. This sort of the way that he has impacted both Sasuke and Naruto's lives.
Naruto. Right.
So he's phenomenal. He's my fourth favorite after Obito. And again, just a premier example of just how to make such a beautiful, beautiful character in a way that impacts the story in so many different ways, and so many and is so dynamic after his death. So yeah, I'm a huge Itachi fanboy, as I'm sure a lot of people are. I adore him. He's the best.
Yeah, no, he's Itachi for so many individuals. Even one of my coworkers, that's her wallpaper is Itachi. He's beloved by our community, as he should be. That plot twist at the end of the fated battle between brothers is genuinely one of the greatest that I've ever experienced in any medium. It's just masterful execution and what it leads to with Sasuke having to make a decision of his own is just some of the greatest stuff, man. He's generational. He's so special. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna add one little thing. Is something I love about him is he has this element to him where the layers are peeled back and he becomes sympathetic, but the story holds nothing back in not excusing anything he does. And in fact, he himself says, I was mistaken. I made several lapses in judgment. I should have gone about things a different way. My mistake was trying to take everything on myself, and it led to such pain for Sasuke and for the world indirectly. And for his family, and like he has regrets. He made mistakes, and he says that outright. No one had the answer really in the series except Naruto. Everyone was flawed in some way, and so I love that Itachi is, self-proclaimed to be one of the most flawed of them all, because I think it's important to in that sort of situation, not make him seem like a paragon, because he was anything but, right? Even if he had great intentions. So I think he's approached with the exact amount of balance in terms of sympathizing with him and adding layers, but also firmly showing all the wrong that he did and not excusing any of that. Like, it's a great balance.
Are there any moments that whenever you look back on the journey that you remember specifically just as one of those, like, man, we might have already talked about some of them, but are there any moments that stick out in your mind as you reflect this past week and a half where you're just like, wow, that's something that impacted me on a personal level? I'll give you a quick example before you go. One that stuck with me towards the end of the series that just blew my mind, even though it was right in front of my face the whole time, is when Naruto and Sasuke are fighting, and Sasuke says that the reason Naruto created the Shadow Clone Jutsu is because he didn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
That line, still to this day, is one of my favorite things ever, because never in a million years would I've imagined that was the reason why he had his ability. I was like, what? That's insane. like imagine you being Kishimoto and creating your main character's ability, and he goes, yeah, I'm gonna give him a clone technique, and obviously he's gonna be very bad at it, but he's gonna master it eventually, and I mean, it becomes the major part of his arsenal. And so when I saw that part in the final fight, I was like, oh my god, I never put two and two together. That's actually so genius. So it's like moments like that. Do you have any moments that stick out to you in your mind from the entire journey, whether it be moments that you had personally or moments that you had while streaming that maybe somebody brought up to you in the comments or anything?
Yeah, I have many. I think I have too many. But if, like, just going by chronologically, I think the end of Land of Waves, Haku and Zabuza just facing each other,
greatest.
That was, I think, the moment where I realized that's very early in the story, but that this was a special story, and it was kind of like the hook for me.
Same.
It was incredible. So that was a huge moment for me personally. Then going into Chunin, it's incredible throughout. But I think a lot of people say Lee and Gaara being like one of the highlights, if not the highlight fight, and it absolutely is for me too. But I think actually for me, Naruto versus Neji was huge for me. It was like, I think it's a precursor to a lot of the writing, the sort of talk no jutsu centric writing, the empathetic ability of Naruto. It's really the proto, not even the prototype, but like the first example of it.
Right.
We see bits of it in Land of Waves, but this is the first one-on-one I understand you fight. And I think that makes it hugely important in the story, and how Naruto turns Neji's life around. But also it was very important for me because I think it made me. I think that was a huge point for me to connect with Naruto, seeing his empathy. I love characters that are able to understand others in that way and help inspire them through that understanding and relating to them and all that. And so that was huge for me buying into Naruto. If we skip ahead a bit, there's the same thing with Naruto and Gaara. One of the presentation of that in the manga is unbelievable. There's this one shot with them reflected. I don't even know what they were.
Yes.
Like half their faces, right?
Yes.
That panel is one of the most memorable things in the story.
Yeah. It's iconic.
Then there's the end of Search for Tsunade. I love
peak.
Incredible stuff. Great character study of Tsunade.
Absolutely.
So the end of Sasuke retrieval, of course, that is one of the highlights of the whole story. Kakashi Gaiden as well. The end of Kazekage retrieval. Is it called?
Yeah, I think it's Kazekage Rescue, but it could be Retrieval.
Right,
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
The end of that, where the stuff with Gaara and seeing all the people around him, considering where he was, that was amazing. And then there's Jiraiya, everything with Jiraiya, everything with his
Peak.
The way he comes into the story and the concept of him being this the tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, and the idea of the story and him being this storyteller and his hopes for the future, and how Nagato and Naruto are two sort of sides of it. That has never left my mind. Also worth mentioning the I don't remember which arc it was specifically, but the Shikamaru episode after Asuma's death in the anime.
Oh man, the Hidan Kakuzu arc. Yeah.
Yes.
That episode in the anime is actually sensational. It is sensational.
It's unbelievable. So that's one as well. So the Jiraiya stuff, we already talked about the Itachi Sasuke stuff. Goes without saying. The Pain arc in general. There is. I had another one, but I kind of maybe I'll remember it later. But then as you go through it, there's also just little things like, there's a line actually that's towards the end of the story, so I'll get to that in a second. But something that was huge for me was Kabuto's arc as well.
Ooh,
Kabuto surprised me so much as a character, because he's there throughout the beginning portions of the story, and I'm like, he's fine. He's fine. He doesn't really distinguish himself. He's solid. He does the job. He doesn't really stick out, though. And then, like, Kishimoto is so self-aware with showing reasons, very distinct reasons for why Kabuto doesn't stick out. The backstory, the visual storytelling of the scene with Orochimaru and him, and the sort of drop of blood, insane. So Kabuto's story was hugely important for me as well. Everything with Madara, the Hashirama Madara flashback.
Yes!
Incredible. Also, just a few days ago, I did my last Naruto stream, which was I watched a bunch of episodes, and I was shown, I don't remember which ED it was, but the one that is Madara-centric with like a very triumphant shonen song.
Oh, that one's so good.
It's so amazing. That one rewired my brain because it is shown from Madara's perspective. From his perspective, he is the hero. It's showing him slaughtering, our forces, our being the protagonist, just to simplify it, with a smile on his face, like this is a huge triumphant thing, like he's not killing innocents en masse, It's so twisted. It is so messed up, and it so beautifully shows his perspective and how he views the world and how he views what he's doing. It blew my mind. That ED is a wonderful piece of art that enhanced my appreciation for Madara. So just watching that was a huge moment for me. Then you go through like a lot of the war arc. Neji's death really hit me hard. Specifically how Hinata supports Naruto, and then we have this Firebird volume. I think it's volume 64.
Let me see. I have it right here.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, 64. 64.
Yep. That is one of my favorite volume covers. The symbolism there, Neji, Hinata and Naruto holding hands, and then the memorial for Neji. It is, it really hit me. And
it ties back to what you were just talking about with Naruto versus Neji.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously there's a whole final fight. There's a lot of great stuff there. Kakashi versus Obito. A lot of Kakashi's lines. There's one line where he looks at Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke and just goes like, "I'm so proud of you guys. I love you guys." Which is that's so beautiful. But something that really stuck with me is when Naruto and Sasuke are fighting. They're fighting, and Sasuke shows or lays out his plan for becoming Hokage, becoming the source for all the or the core and the sort of target for all the darkness. He will bear it all. And Naruto going like, I'm not going to let you go there alone. That whole thing. and he intends to, beat Naruto, kill Naruto, because that's going to be the toughest thing because he's the closest person to him.
Right.
And then, after that, it'll be easy, ideally. And what he says to Naruto is, like, in the midst of their fight, that this is going to be the last time. This will be my last fight. And, from a shallow perspective, or not a shallow perspective, but at face value, that is just like, okay, it makes sense. He doesn't intend to fight after this because there's going to be no need for it, given his plan.
Right.
But I'm just thinking, does he intend to die? Like,
right.
And that idea stuck in my mind, and I haven't stopped thinking about it since. And did Sasuke go into this maybe wanting to die, maybe expecting to die, maybe hoping Naruto would win, and maybe subconsciously wanting Naruto to win and thinking it would result in his death, and maybe he was just tired of it all.
Right.
That's maybe he was just tired of it all, and he said at the end, like, just kill me. And Naruto said, no, we're going to take the rocky path by working together and finding the way forward into the future.
Yes.
But that line, that this is my final battle, and the implications of that is one of the most memorable things of the whole story to me, because of the complexity and layers it adds to him right at the end.
Definitely.
So that's a bunch of them. I've forgotten a couple, but
Yeah.
but those are a bunch of them.
No, great choices, dude. I wanted to highlight a few on my end. You know that the first episode I ever watched of Naruto was episode 19, which is that Zabuza Haku episode.
Oh man,
that episode was airing on TV. They were doing I think it was a 4 or 3 episode marathon. My friend Robert called me and he was like, "You need to watch a show called Naruto." And I went and I checked it out, and that was the episode. And it'll always hold a special place in my heart because, man, not only did it hook me, I became such a massive tard. I went right. I still have the volume 1 that I bought after watching it on TV. I just got so obsessed, and so I owe a lot to that episode, and episode 19, Zabuza Haku, all that greatness. The Search for Tsunade arc has always been one that I loved, specifically episode 95, which is when he finally lands the Rasengan. That, for me, before I watched One Piece, was like the Luffy punching Bellamy moment.
Right.
Of like, you're finally... Kabuto has been messing with you the whole time. You can't do anything about it. And Naruto finally, after so much struggle, after everyone keeps telling him he can't do it, he pulls it off, and it's just done so perfectly well. It's that, and as I've gotten older, and Jaya and Skype has really become a part of my existence. I think back to Search for Tsunade because that is the Jaya arc of Naruto. That is the one where the foil in that arc, the main central thing against Naruto, is the fact that Tsunade does not believe in him. And it does not believe that he will become Hokage. And Naruto sets out to make her believe so. And oh boy, does he. And it is such a satisfying, very simple story, at least there. You know, obviously the complexities come with Orochimaru and Jiraiya and everything else happening there that makes it so good. But at its core, the story with Naruto and Tsunade in that arc is so well done that you see how much she changes to actually want to take the position of Hokage after that. It's just, I love that arc a lot. And it's, as I've grown older and as I go through it again and again and again, it sticks out to me more and more every time. Because similar to One Piece, it's so cool to me how both Kishimoto and Oda, after writing their first successful arc, decided to talk about dreams and overcoming people who don't believe in them. It's so cool how both of them decided to do that. But after that, what I want to talk to you so much about, the day that we first started talking about Naruto here in one of our discussions, was that you were about to enter the upcoming stretch of the Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, Fated Battle Between Brothers, and the Pain Invasion. because that was my first exposure to long-term storytelling culminating at a certain point, and I was following that the entire time because I read all of that weekly. And that to me is like the any time that I experience something that ends up culminating in this massive back to back to back stretch of like insanity, I always think back to that stuff. I can't imagine my experience as somebody who loves stories without that stretch of chapters in Naruto. It is so integral to so much of what I love. But the Pain arc in particular, the Naruto and Pain dynamic, the things that arc does, how ambitious it is, how it puts theme above even what the readers would want. And obviously, right, I'm sure there was a lot of individuals that were like, oh no, a lot of these characters died, I don't want them to come back. And Kishimoto was like, no, they're going to be revived because that's going to serve exactly what the story's about. And it's those ambitious things that I really love that stretch of chapters, and it's so special. And then to finish off my section here, the Minato and Kushina flashback.
Oh my god,
is one of my favorite flashbacks in anything. I have gone through that flashback so many times in Volume 53 that whether it's the anime, the manga, or the video games, I cry every time. It hits me on such a personal level. I adore Minato and Kushina and their connection, the love that they have for Naruto. It is so beautiful, and their relationship, Minato and Kushina's. I saw that you experienced Kishimoto's one shot.
Yep.
With those two. That was so beautiful because it goes to show not only does Kishimoto still have it, but he really, really has it when it comes to those two characters. Like, what a powerful one shot, man!
Incredible.
What did you think of it going through that particular stretch? Especially since at that point Naruto had been over for 9 years whenever he wrote that one shot. So, how did you feel about it?
Well, that's important context because as someone, like, literally, how did it go? I think that stream, I read chapters 680 to 691, so right by the end of this of the whole series, and ended with the Happy Birthday chapter.
Oof.
Man. And leading into that, my mods planned it very well. So there's the Happy Birthday chapter, and it led into that. And really, like, I had read almost 700 chapters straight weekly for almost a year, and then I read that, and it honestly, I didn't know the year it came out. If you told me that he wrote that immediately after finishing the series, I would have believed you, because it doesn't skip a beat at all. In terms of writing, in terms of presentation, the symbolism is some of the best in the entire series. The way that the final spread has Minato's face where his head will be eventually.
Yes.
The way that it deals with the idea of the whorls within the spiral that is Kushina's life, and how Minato represents getting her out of that, and the sort of ephemeral freedom he represents for her, and the talk from Mito, I think your name is, who talks about how as you travel through a spiral, you're going through the same direction, but your perspective changes about the environment around you because your elevation changes, and so many great bits of symbolism and thematic motifs. It's really, really beautifully done for both characters, and it's basically the perfect one shot for me. I knew I was forgetting some stuff when I listed my moments for you or things. Mm-hmm. That's one of them. They're one of the relationships, Naruto and his parents, that just, no matter what, always got to me.
Same.
Just extracted tears from my eyes just upon seeing them. It's the most beautiful thing. So yeah, I totally agree. And the one shot, totally wonderful.
when you get the opportunity, even if you never play the games, I would highly recommend, at the very least, watching the interactions and the ultimate techniques that Naruto, Minato, and Kushina have with each other in the Naruto video games. It's a lot of fan service, but it's so well done. Like, so it hits me so hard that they would take the time to give them these specific interactions within the games just from using them together. Like, they have unique attacks that they can pull off. It's so good. So if you ever get the opportunity, that's something that that you would appreciate as someone who really loves their relationship as well. I wanted to ask you in regards to you brought up the anime. The anime obviously has a lot of legendary episodes. Some of the all-time greats that honestly anime's ever produced. Both Naruto and Sasuke fights, Naruto versus Pain. Just so many legendary episodes and moments. Out of the ones that you've watched, especially coming from somebody that experienced a lot of that first in the manga, what are some episodes that stick out to you, and do you have a favorite from the ones that you've watched?
I do have a favorite. My favorite is, it's probably a lot of people's, but it's 478. So,
a fantastic choice.
Yeah,
yes.
the final
Yes,
Naruto Sasuke fight one. The bits they add with Sasuke perceiving Naruto's journey and struggles.
Yeah.
The bits with them by the swing set overlooking the village and the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
So much anime additional stuff that really accentuates and elevates it. So, and then the source material, and then just the general direction. It's my favorite. But there are a lot that come close. The Shikamaru episode is absolutely one. It's
greatness.
To me, it is the foremost example of elevating the source material in like anything I've seen in terms of anime only editions.
Definitely.
It's just incredible. It does so much for him. It's great for Shikaku as well. And then just beautifully directed. There's the Hinata episode. I don't remember which number it is, but
166.
Oh, is okay.
Yes, sir. I have it downloaded on my phone. I bought it on iTunes the day it came out in like 2009. Because I love that stretch so much.
I would have been right if I was a Naruto fan back there. I would have been right there with you.
Yes, sir.
I bought episodes off iTunes from all sorts of stuff. That one I adore. That is again, that is my second favorite example of anime-only additions to accentuate and enhance the story. And it just does so much for Naruto and Hinata's relationship. Hinata as a character, it made me feel so close and connected to her in a way that I really liked her prior to that, but in a way that took it to another level, and she made me so emotional. It endeared me to her so closely. So that's another highlight. And then I would have to say the This Is Hell episode for Obito.
Ooh, yes.
Just the voice acting, Megami Han. Just the way they adapted the imagery, just absolutely stunning. Sound design, wonderful. So yeah, those would be some highlights. My favorite being 478.
No, yeah, dude, it's nuts. In the past couple of months, you've experienced One Piece episode 1015 and Naruto 478,
yeah,
which are like two of the greatest Shonen Jump related episodes of all time.
It's incredible. I am not taking it for granted because it's not always going to be like this.
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, I'm very lucky.
Nah, man, yeah, that's awesome. Those are some great choices, by the way. I love all the ones you listed. I remember last time we had this discussion. You brought up 133, which and 134, the legendary Naruto and Sasuke fight.
Yeah.
So it's really cool that coming off of our most recent discussion, that in this one, the culmination of that in 478 is your favorite. That's character consistency right there.
Yeah. And 478's material, like that whole fight, elevates to me the end of Sasuke retrieval. Like it makes
100%.
that better through how it calls back to it.
Yes, I could not agree more. For the final few, as we wrap up here, I know individuals are going to ask, and I'm curious myself. I don't know if you answered this in the final Naruto stream, but do you have a sort of like favorite arcs list, or like a top 5, top 3, anything of the sort?
Oh yeah, I got that. We did that in the wrap up stream. 1 second, and I can show you. But
sweet.
But my number one. So there's a caveat to it, which is that if you count Jiraiya the Gallant, Fated Battle, and Pain Assault together, it's probably number 1.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
But I don't count them together, but I see why you could. But right. I don't count them together. So that would be number 1 if it was together. But since it's not, my favorite is the 4th Great Ninja War.
Great choice.
It's I know it's not everyone's favorite. Like that's a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people criticize it. I personally found there to be little to no problems at all. I find it's all really consistent, amazing peaks and payoffs. Concluding with my favorite chapter in the series, my favorite episode in the series. Everything is just amazing there. It hits all the right spots. From there, Fated Battle Between Brothers is my number 2. Nice. Pain Assault is number 3. Sasuke Retrieval number 4, and then Jiraiya the Gallant is number 5.
Strong.
But like I'm just looking at it, and my lowest one, which is Tenchi Bridge, is still an 8 out of 10. I rated it. It's still very good. Like there's not even anything approaching a bad or even average arc in Naruto. Like I enjoy them all, and I love most of them. So it's just like Land of Waves, like I said, is one of my favorite first arcs to anything, and it's 10th out of 14, and I adore it. So
yep. That just shows. It shows that Kishi has consistently delivered greatness for all these years.
Yeah, I'm curious about what's your favorite.
So similar to you, if those 3 were together, that's by far the number 1, just because of what it meant to me personally.
Yeah.
But my number 1 still, even with that, is still the Pain arc, because of, like I said, the stuff that I talked about earlier. It means so much to me on a lot of levels, but in particular, and now that I'm creating these stories, I want to create something that could be as immersive as the Pain arc is for not only myself, but for so many people. The Pain arc has been the way that not only have I been able to connect to other Naruto fans. I can't even tell you the amount of times that I'll talk to somebody else in wherever, and I find out that they're a Naruto fan, and we talk about our favorite moments, and every single time they'll always bring up the Pain stuff, the Pain War, or the Invasion of Pain, or whatever they end up calling it. They always bring up Pain, and I'm connected to so many of my closest friends because of that arc, to so many random strangers whom we formed a connection to because of that arc. It has one of my first ever official weekly experience of something of that magnitude, and then just on a personal level, I want to create something as legendary as that one day, just because of how much I loved it and how much I continue to love it to this day. It's just any time that I go back and rewatch that section or reread it, I'm always reminded of like, man, dude, that Kishimoto guy, he's something special. But that's definitely my number 1. My number 2 is probably the 4th Great Ninja War as well. It's over the years, I've almost put it at number one. The things that always make me want to put it there is the character moments. As somebody who just loves my character moments, no matter what story it is, similar to what we were talking about with Haikyu earlier, Naruto has, with almost all of its major characters, their best character moments come in some way, shape, or form from the moment that Gaara releases that speech until the end of the series.
Right.
So many of the best characters have their just legendary peak moments within the arc. And on a side note, because of my love for Wano, and in particular the way that arc is structured, I've come to really appreciate the Fourth Great Ninja War as well, because there's similarities in the way that the arcs are clearly split from like this section, and this section.
Right.
Or like Water 7 Enies Lobby, right? Where it's Water 7, Sea Train, Enies Lobby. I've come to really love when stuff is structured that way. And the Fourth Great Ninja War, all three sections form such a magnificent, cohesive piece that has, like I said, the best final chapters that I could ever ask for. So the only reason why I don't put it there is because, number one, similar to my favorite arc from Bleach, is just so integral to my journey as an anime fan. I can't imagine it not being there. And then with number three, it would more than likely be Sasuke Retrieval, because that was the first arc with Search for Tsunade, but specifically Sasuke Retrieval, that I ever watched in Japanese. Out of all anime I ever watched, that when Toonami was airing a marathon on television for the Chunin exams, and I was with my cousin. We were, of course, massive fans, and they did from episode 59 to 62, which is the whole Neji versus Naruto fight. And we were so excited. We just recently discovered YouTube. We're going to try to find Naruto versus Neji on YouTube again, so to see if we could rewatch some of those moments. And we found Sasuke versus Gaara. We're like, what is this? Is this the future? and from there, we found our rabbit hole, and we just started watching so much stuff that had not been on TV yet, except it was in a different language. We're like, oh, this is really cool. So we went through the rest of it, Search for Tsunade, but when we got to Sasuke Retrieval, I was by myself, where it was just me. And it was my first ever experience with any anime or manga of me binging a stretch of episodes. And it is still what I think back to when I'm like, the way I felt when Shikamaru left that mess, or when Choji left behind that message, or no, it was Shikamaru who left behind the message. And we have those incredible moments for each individual character within that arc. They all get their moments to shine, nearly tearing up at every moment, culminating with Drunk Rock Lee, and then Naruto versus Sasuke. And the amount of times to this day I rewatch Naruto versus Sasuke, the original, the quintessential fight, the Goku versus Frieza of my generation. Like, I just, those three arcs represent so much of my love for the story. I love a lot of arcs, like we talked about earlier. Search for Tsunade is up there. Always will be. The fated battle between brothers and the Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, right there with the Pain arc for very same reasons. I love if the Minato Kushina flashbacks an arc, that's like 1.5.
Yeah.
And so much other stuff, tuning exams, that the series has to offer. But those three represent like multiple different points in my journey through the series that like I can't imagine a point where they're not the top three, just because like they are Naruto to me. You know, whenever I think back to the original, to the overall experience of going through that incredible masterpiece. But yeah, man, in regards to our final things as we wind down here, I just wanted to get your final thoughts on the series, and whenever the opportunity presents itself, once you finish catching up to, as a matter of fact, I'll leave that up for the end. I was about to say, I'll leave that to the end. Your final thoughts on Naruto, and we'll wrap up the Naruto section there with that.
Final thoughts. I guess it's hard to sum up into words how much I love the story, but needless to say, it's one of my favorite shonen ever. It's one of my favorite stories ever. It has one of the best casts. It has one of the best. It is in my. I now have a Mount Rushmore of antagonist casts, which it, in my opinion, has now entered. I think it has, like, it's hard to ask for a better antagonist cast than Naruto's. So
For sure.
it's entered my Mount Rushmore of antagonist casts in fiction.
Hold on. Togashi's Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Kishimoto's Naruto. What's the other two? I'm curious.
Haikyu,
Okay.
which works easily because sports antagonist is very clear to define in sports manga.
Yes.
So we can just toss in Oikawa, Hoshiumi, Ushijima, whatever.
Strong cast.
Yeah. So Hunter x Hunter, Haikyu, and Naruto, and the fourth is Final Fantasy XIV.
Ooh, okay. Oh man, the hype continues. The hype continues.
Little did you know, I'd throw in a shill for 14 right at the end.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But yeah, so it is all of these things. It is one of my favorite fictional journeys because of being able, just because of the story itself, but also being able to share it with people, being able to stream every chapter, and share my thoughts. And it is just a series that, more than anything, it's more than a story. It is a piece of work that inspires me and feels like it is there to, offer a comforting pat on the back, to help us. I think the series is there to demonstrate this empathy and demonstrate this compassion and kindness, and this idea that you are not alone, that connections, it's never too late. Connections can be found, and reality is hard, but it is also rewarding if you persevere through it. And it just taught me, or it's not taught me a bunch of things, but it's rather expressed a bunch of things in a new way that made me think of them in a way that makes me, that inspires me in a new and different way. It's changed a lot of the ways I view those ideas, and as a result, it's changed my life in a way. Every year I have this top 100 stories ranking that I do.
Yes.
It's coming up for me. I've been holding off on it because of Rebirth, because I'm sure that's gonna affect it somehow. But whenever I do that, Naruto is going to be there, and it's not going to be like around 90 or 100. It's going to be pretty high up there. It's just, it is it's one of my favorite stories, and it means a lot to me in so many ways. It touches on everything. The way sharing it with others, the themes, the characters, the ideas, the memories, the moments, and whenever I rewatch it or reread it in the future, I don't know, that could be 3 or 4 years from now, but I can't wait. I can't wait to dig into it again with the full context of the full story, because it's ended, but really, I've been saying this a lot the last couple of weeks. Stories don't really end as long as you love them.
Right.
I finished Haikyu, but it hasn't ended. Not in my mind, not in my heart, Same thing with Naruto.
I resonate with that so strongly, specifically with Naruto and Bleach. I love them more today than I did when both series ended.
Man,
So
I can't wait for Bleach.
yep. So I was about to bring that up. Before we talk about Bleach to finish us off and to fill the hole in Fiji's heart. We're in regards to what you were just talking about with the Takano Jutsu, with how the series inspires and the wonderful messages that it has. Naruto, I can't imagine a King Recon who did not have Naruto as a role model. He was such an integral part of the way that I viewed just my existence, the people around me, the struggles they also had to go through, learning that at such a young age that other individuals are also going through a lot, and seeing the way that Naruto showcases that through all of its characters, but in particular through Naruto, and how he tries to reach out and understand, and at the very core, no matter what happens, he always goes to whatever the main antagonist is of that arc and tries to understand them. It's something that really, really changed me. And so I'll always be appreciative of Kishimoto for introducing such a phenomenal character that has proved to be a role model for so many individuals. And he'll always be one for me. So I just wanted to end off that with my own final thoughts on this incredible story and that phenomenal character. But going on to Bleach, man. When can we expect it? When is it time? Are you going to do something else in that slot, or are you going right into Bleach here soon?
It's very soon. So I just finished Naruto this past week. We're recording this on a Saturday. We just finished it this past Wednesday. That was the wrap up stream. This week we are not doing Bleach. I'm gonna do a stream, just a sort of premiere stream, like I did with Naruto and Bleach last year, with either JoJo's Part 7 or...
Oh my god!
Wow.
Oh, my heart! Oh my goodness!
Yeah. JoJo's Part 7 or Slam Dunk or both.
Oh god!
So I'm gonna check out probably both of those series in the next couple weeks. So like just to take a little break from the huge stories. So this week I might do Slam Dunk. The week after I'll do JoJo's Part 7 just as a premiere stream, and see how I feel about it. Maybe in the future I do a full read through. But that's the premiere stream we'll be doing, and then right after that we're with Bleach. We go straight into Bleach. So a week or two, I guess, hiatus while I explore those stories, just dip my toes in, and then Bleach. So we aren't waiting much at all.
Dude, you just brought up two series that I absolutely adore. Slam Dunk for sure, but man, JoJo Part 7, dude, like. That that's like, you know, I have my own Mount Rushmore of peak. That's right there with Chimera Anarch, man. Like I really love JoJo Part 7. So if you're doing that, and I know we've had a conversation before about your feelings on JoJo, so I'm very, very curious on how that journey will go for you, dude. Is that the type of thing where you would do the whole thing on stream, or you would just like do the first couple chapters and read the rest on your own? What are you thinking with that?
So because of how I feel about JoJo's in general, for anyone watching who doesn't know, like I'm not a huge fan of JoJo's. I don't really love it. I don't connect with it. I really appreciate it, and I think I have utmost respect for Araki and his legacy, but it's just not super my thing. But I've heard so many things about 7, and I've watched the first 6 parts anime, so it's next up. So I have high hopes for it. High hopes. My expectations. I don't expect it to be a 10 out of 10 or anything, because I don't tend to do that for any story really. But to answer the question, as long as I do this premiere stream and read however many chapters in it. And if I want to read more, like if I read it, and as long as I'm enjoying it enough to read more, I intend to read it all on stream. Like
Oof.
that could easily be as long as I enjoy what I read first stream, that could easily be the series after Bleach.
Okay.
So that or Slam Dunk. If it's the same thing with Slam Dunk, it's between those two, I guess.
Dude, both fantastic choices. I'm excited for either one. But because Part 7 means so much to me, like I can't even tell you how much I love that story, and similar to what we were just talking about, how much that one's truly impacted me. So if we ever get the opportunity to talk about that, that would be really cool. For you caught me so off guard. I was so shocked.
You screamed.
I was like, yo. But even before that happens, you're about to experience I always call it my first love in the medium. You're about to experience Bleach. That's right there with Sailor Moon, right there with Naruto, right there with Dragon Ball, and all the legends. Bleach means so much to me, just as all the big three do. But that one in particular, for so many years, held the top spot with One Piece. That I just can't wait to see your experience with it, considering how much I saw you enjoy the first part of the series.
Oh, yeah.
And so I know a bunch of people are going to be looking forward to that. I'll be there as often as I can, just like I was for the others. But for Bleach, especially since I've been wanting to do another reread recently, it'll be like the perfect opportunity. So trust me when I say I can't wait for that. And the sooner that we get the opportunity to you, me, and Fiji to get together to do a stream on that, or a discussion on that after you either finish it or you reach a certain point and you want to talk about it, we'll be there no matter what.
Oh,
so I really
appreciate it.
that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, man. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been another awesome discussion with my good brother AJ. We talked about a lot of greatness that's incoming. FF7 Rebirth, and Yakuza, and MGS. Monogatari coming later this year. The greatness of Haikyu. And of course, Masashi Kishimoto's Naruto. Where can they find you, AJ? And what is your current stream schedule looking like for the people who are trying to find where my boy is cooking?
So you can find me at my YouTube channel, Alexander, ALECZANDXR. Odd spelling, sorry about that. But that's my main channel where I make sort of more polished analysis videos. By the time this is out, I'll probably have one on Seti from Hunter x Hunter, Seti Donihi from the Succession War. So
nice.
That's edited by Fiji, by the way. It looks great.
Nice.
So yeah, I do big One Piece hours long, 3 hour long discussions on arcs on there, along with like video essays for all sorts of amazing stories. Lots of Jujutsu Kaisen and Hunter x Hunter lately. And then in terms of streams, which we've been talking about, same username, twitch.tv/Alexander, where I'll be doing my current schedule is Mondays are Yakuza Monday, currently going through 6, like we were kind of talking about. Might be done that by the time this comes out. After that, we'll see. Could be Judgment, could be Ace Attorney, could be doing 7. So we'll see how that goes. But Monday is the gaming day. Wednesdays will be after a little dip into the toes of Slam Dunk and JoJo's Part 7. That'll be Bleach. So Bleach Wednesdays. Most Fridays I read One Piece, and most Sundays I read One Piece. So that's the schedule. And randomly here and there, there's a random one. Sometimes I do some Final Fantasy 14. But probably won't for a while until the next expansion comes out. But yeah, that's the deal for now. Gaming Mondays, currently Yakuza, we'll see in the future. Metal Gear Solid eventually, again. Bleach Wednesdays, One Piece Fridays and Sundays.
That is a week of peak ladies and gentlemen.
It is.
Did you hear what that man just said? That is a week of peak. Definitely go check him out. He has an incredible community over there of wonderful individuals, both mods and commenters alike. Just incredibly supportive, very, very funny individuals. And there's so much. There's just such a joy to be around. So definitely check out AJ's Twitch and his YouTube whenever you guys get the opportunity to do so. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been it for us today. Have a blessed one. Thank you for making it to the end of this discussion. And for anyone who would like to see us do this again in the future, which we undoubtedly will be doing it again, let us know what you would like to hear us talk about, as well as, since the next one's probably going to be for either One Piece or FF7, if you are a fan of either of the two, let us know your hype levels for that as well. But until next time, you'll have a good one. Stay blessed and take care.